Chapter 15:18. In the vastness of the heaven and earth, the Yuan Qi is divided into metal, wood, water, fire, earth, as well as wind and lightning. These 7 Yuan Qi are born from the heaven and earth spiritual energies. The crimson aqua crystal is the most primitive water elemental crystal formed after the separation of the heaven and earth spiritual energies. It is born from the heaven and earth and is nurtured by the heaven and earth. It is extremely rich in energy and can bestow vitality to all things, stirring the heaven and earth spiritual energies. It is extremely beneficial when used to refine pills. Su-yi could not help but be alarmed as he whispered, "It's no wonder the sacred mountain is willing to slaughter the entirely tribal clan to obtain this item. No one knows that the crimson aqua crystal is extremely sentient. If it doesn't recognize an owner, no one can take it away. Unfortunately, my Li tribal clan has peerless talent." The elder continued sadly. Su-yi frowned as his eyes hid his excitement. He said, "Then, senior, what can I do for you?" The elder's faint glow constantly dimmed and was about to disappear. He said with a trembling voice, "You already possess my cloud shadow frost steps and the heaven crystal remnant. You will naturally sense its location. If the heaven crystal recognizes you as its owner, please avenge my Li tribal clan." Swish! In front of Su-yi's eyes was a sea of blazing light. In front of his eyes was a sea of icy blue peaks that kept surging towards him. The immense power seemed to want to crush him directly. What intense pressure! Su-yi was secretly alarmed. "Young man, endure this final blow. After refining the remnant, you can go and retrieve the heaven crystal." Time slowly passed. At that moment it could be sensed that Su-yi's aura had reached its limits, like a balloon that was about to explode. The ground began to shake as a whirlpool formed where Su-yi was sitting. The intense shockwaves gradually dug out a huge pit in the ground as Su-yi's figure constantly sank. Su-yi! Yun-qing, who sensed something amiss, streaked across the sky as a beam of light. Her figure immediately appeared beside Su-yi. At that moment, Su-yi was enveloped by the ice-blue water ball. Su-yi, who was inside it, was like an iceman. Spatial ripples suffused with cold qi constantly appeared around the ball of light. The heaven and earth energy was injected into the ball of light in an extremely condensed form. This punk, did he find it? Yun-qing turned pale with fright. Then, her aura started to rise. Yuan Qi spurted out from both of his hands and wood attribute Yuan Qi was produced. A wooden dragon as thick as a pillar whizzed out and rushed towards Su-yi. Crack! The moment it touched Su-yi's body, the wooden dragon was directly frozen by the water attribute Yuan Qi. A small crack quietly split open in the surrounding space, and a dense ice-cold Yuan Qi directly sealed the wooden dragon, preventing it from moving. Qi La. Making a prompt decision, Yun-qing's Yuan Qi once again condensed in her hands. A huge suction force spurted out from her hands, directly shattering the wood dragon. Yun-qing couldn't hide the fear in her eyes. She leaped up and retreated. She looked at Su-yi, who was in the huge pit. He was no longer sinking. Yun-qing's mind was in turmoil as she stared at him. What a powerful water attribute Yuan Qi! It's impossible for him to release such violent energy. Yun-qing muttered to herself. The sky gradually turned white, and a ray of sunlight shone through the gaps in the clouds. The morning dew was mixed with cold air, densely enveloping the entire world. Su-yi's surroundings were like a polar ice cave. It was bone-chilling cold, and the flowers and plants were directly frozen. Tiny icicles also formed on the walls and space of the deep pit. The entire forest was like an ice-blue tent. Yun-qing was helpless. She could only observe Su-yi's changes from the side. Her eyes were filled with concentration. When did he find the heaven crystal? When Su-yi was adjusting his breath, Yun-qing noticed that his aura was extremely unusual. Saint Artifact, Emperor Sparrow. How many more secrets did this punk have? Inside the ice circle, A strange phenomenon was happening. An ice ball was suspended in the air, and the ice crystals that extended out were like protruding tentacles. At this moment, Su-yi was sitting cross-legged in the ice crystal. He had been sitting there for more than an hour and hadn't moved at all. He was like an old monk in a meditative state. Will something happen to him? Yunqing, who had been waiting by the side for more than 2 hours, stared blankly as the sun slowly rose from the ridgeline. The warm sunlight shone on her charming face, but she couldn't smile at all. Her face was full of solemnity. Qi La. At this moment, Su-yi was like a 1,000-year-old iceman in the ice crystal. He was covered in frost from head to toe. The yuan qi of the great void sea was constantly surging. It was also surrounded by the remnants and turned into an azure color. It was extremely mysterious as it surged. Inside the ice ball there was a small world. Even if it was the remnants of the heaven crystal, the intense energy of heaven and earth was enough to make Su-yi suffer. Su-yi clenched his fist. The ice-blue mysterious runes around him were like chains that tightly wrapped around him. Su-yi circulated the art of heaven controlling to protect his mind. At the same time, he used the Origin Supreme technique to refine the remnants of energy. The Origin Supreme technique was fully activated. Su-yi shouted in his heart, "Refine." His true qi instantly surged. His face was slightly flushed, and his forehead was covered in sweat. The consumption of true qi for Su-yi, who had the great void divine ocean, was extremely horrifying. His true qi is actually so vigorous and abundant. Su-yi's every move constantly refreshed Yunqing's understanding. The man in front of her couldn't be measured by an ordinary second-level origin emperor. Roar! In the next moment, a ray of light shot out from Su-yi's hand amidst the water attribute energy that filled the sky. It was like an ice dragon that shot out. It was extremely sharp and contained boundless energy that had reached a terrifying stage. Bang! Refine. In an instant, the ice ball went through the final impact and caused the surrounding space to distort. The spatial ripples were compressed into an obvious concave arc. Yunqing, who was already prepared, jumped onto a tall branch like a spirit monkey. She condensed her wood attribute energy and fused with the towering ancient tree. She immediately hid within the tree. The spatial ripples were about to shatter. The flowers, plants, trees, and stones that were sealed in ice were instantly turned into fine powder by the impact of the shockwave. Cracks began to appear around the ice ball. Countless icicles broke, and even the surrounding ground cracked. Countless cracks that were hundreds of meters long spread out. Rumble! A figure whizzed out from the cracks, and the ice ball immediately exploded. The huge impact caused Su-yi's robe to flutter in the wind. The ice crystals that densely covered his body also turned into mist. His entire body was filled with water vapor, and he looked like a young master in the clouds. An intense ray of light shot up to the sky. The massive water attribute energy was like a snowstorm that filled the sky. It soared into the sky and instantly dissipated into nothingness. The bone-chilling energy wave spread out like a halo. A huge tree that required dozens of people to wrap their arms around it was directly cut open with a ghastly scar. Su-yi suddenly opened his eyes. His hands were rapidly forming seals, and the true qi in his body was also circulating rapidly. Chapter 15:19. His 5 claws formed a seal, and the water attribute energy whizzed out. The terrifying force instantly shattered a huge tree into pieces. Such terrifying power could even crush a third-stage origin emperor. Su-yi looked at the terrifying scene in front of him in astonishment and felt that he was different. In the blink of an eye, Su-yi turned into an icy blue phantom in the air and climbed up the tree branch that was hundreds of feet high. It was effortless for him. After refining the remnants, the cloud shadow frost steps has reached the second stage. The second stage of the profound entrances seems to be loosening. Su-yi was astonished and immediately took a deep breath. The crimson aqua heaven crystal brought great changes to his elemental energy. Just the remnants had such power. If he really obtained the crimson aqua heaven crystal, how much progress would he make? You found the heaven crystal long ago? Su-yi immediately withdrew his aura and looked back at Yunqing, who walked out from the tree. He said in panic, "No, I just refined some remnants." Yunqing came and went without a trace. Even though he had an abundance of spirit energy, he couldn't sense Yunqing's aura at all. The young Yunqing made Su-yi feel an unprecedented profundity. Su-yi looked at Yunqing in astonishment. Yunqing also noticed the changes in Su-yi and couldn't help but be amazed. It's only been a few hours. This change is a little too fast. Where did you get the remnants? Yunqing looked at Su-yi suspiciously. She felt that Su-yi wasn't telling the complete truth. Su-yi didn't have the time to care. He looked at the huge pit that was in a mess. He was actually able to use the water attribute to such an extent. Compared to the fire attribute energy, the power was much stronger. It was just that he didn't have a matching martial skill. All of his king grade and emperor grade martial skills, including the heavenly Fey ancient scripture and the origin supreme technique, were all catalyzed by the fire attribute. He had to get a few more water attribute martial skills in the future if he had the chance. He might be able to use them as an unexpected trump card in the Tianfeng ranking tournament. Say something. Are you lying to me? Yunqing nimbly jumped to Su-yi's side. She wrinkled her nose and her eyes were full of suspicion. Su-yi rolled his eyes and said in a deep voice, "We have a bet, why should I tell you?" "Humph, stingy brat, to think that I saved you just now." "You saved me?" Yunqing knew that Su-yi had used his own strength to completely refine the remnants. She couldn't explain herself even if she had a mouth. She lightly stomped on the tree trunk, and a few leaves rustled down. When they landed on the ground, they immediately turned into ice crystals. The temperature below was still extremely cold, like an ice cave. Su-yi gradually withdrew his aura, and he couldn't help but feel a little unbearable. "Who is it?" In the distance, two golden silhouettes were rapidly approaching. The commotion caused by Su-yi and the surging yuan qi light had directly alarmed the guards stationed at the entrance of the academy. "Shh." Su-yi made a shushing gesture to Yunqing. Yunqing and Su-yi immediately withdrew their aura and carefully observed the situation below. They saw two disciples dressed in golden robes. One of them had his hair combed into a high bun, while the other held a giant axe. The two of them instantly arrived in front of the huge pit. In a forest, a fierce cold wind blew from the surroundings. The two disciples looked at each other and shuddered. Is this caused by the barbaric demonic beasts? The scene in front of them was incomparably terrifying. The bone-chilling cold wind blew across the ruins. The disciple with the high bun asked softly. The other disciple spread out his yuan qi and immediately felt the residual water attribute yuan qi in the air. He reprimanded, "It doesn't seem like it. It seems like an expert has entered. Who is so bold? The fifth saint is about to arrive at the city to participate in the direct disciple ceremony. Who dares to be so presumptuous? You go over there and search. I'll go over there." Su-yi and Yunqing immediately looked at each other, the corners of their mouths raised into a smile. After a few breaths, the people who had just gone to search the ruins were thrown into the huge pit. "Who are you?" The two Saint Mountain disciples looked at Su-yi and Yunqing with fear. One of them had a beautiful face, while the other had a handsome face. Neither of them looked like ferocious fiends, and they snarled. "Brat, you're causing trouble in the holy mountain. Do you want to die?" The disciple with the giant axe kept struggling and waving the giant axe in his hand, trying to cut the vines on his body. The huge vines were intertwined with each other and wrapped around the two like tentacles. The more they struggled, the tighter they became. "Don't struggle. The more you struggle, the faster you'll die." Yunqing's eyes were clear as water, but the coldness at the corner of her mouth was even more bone-chilling than the cold wind. The 2 disciples of the holy mountain immediately felt a chill down their spines and gave up struggling. "When will the 5th saint arrive?" Su-yi asked coldly. "I don't know." The 2 disciples gritted their teeth and didn't say anything, their eyes filled with hatred. "It seems that the dogs of the holy mountain don't know how to be docile unless they're taught a lesson." Su-yi raised his eyebrows at Yunqing. "Chi-la." The huge vines tightly shook the 2 disciples, and their faces immediately turned red. Their blood froze and their eyes bulged as if they were about to explode. Their struggling hands flopped in the air and were deeply stuck in the vines. They wanted to break free, but they couldn't. "Yes, the 5th saint will be here soon." A short voice came from her throat as Yunqing smiled and loosened the vines a little. Su-yi's cold eyes flashed again, and his aura surged towards the 2 like a tidal wave. "Who else is there? What realm are they in?" The 2 disciples of the holy mountain bit their lips and shook their heads violently, indicating that they didn't know. Boom! An ice crystal directly penetrated the thigh of the disciple with the giant axe, and a line of blood suddenly rose up. Accompanied by a loud cry of pain, the ground seemed to tremble. "Next time, it'll be your eyes," the disciple with the buns said with a trembling voice. The 5th saint is said to have reached the 2nd level of the Origin Sovereign Realm. There are also 2 elders from the disciplinary pavilion, Elder Su and Elder Lu. Both of them have a profound cultivation at the 6th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm. Su-yi was shocked when he heard that. 2 elders at the 6th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm and the Disciplinary Pavilion's elders always represented the face and strength of a sect. Such a realm was definitely one of the top in the Holy Mountain. The Holy Mountain seemed to think highly of the 5th saint. The Holy Mountain was comparable to the entire Chaos region. The 6th level of the Origin Ancestor Realm was definitely an existence that surpassed Qin Yu by countless times. Su-yi's heart sank. "What about the academy? What's the situation with today's disciple ceremony?" "Continue." Su-yi's cold gaze penetrated the heart of the man with the bun. The man with the bun was terrified. He told Su-yi that in the Holy Mountain, only the direct disciples were qualified to cultivate on the mountain. The inner, outer, and nominal disciples were all cultivating in the Holy Mountain Academy. The new disciples would go through a talent test after entering the academy. The more talented ones would be taken away by the elders, and the rest would have to wait for the disciple ceremony to have the opportunity to enter the mountain. Therefore, today was the day that all the disciples of the Holy Mountain gave it their all. Please remember the domain name of this book, .com, Wonderful Book Mobile Version Website, .com. Chapter 1520. As for the holy sons and holy daughters, they were simply unreachable divine existences in the hearts of the Holy Mountain disciples. They were like gods, especially the 5th holy son, who was the most beloved among all the holy sons and had the highest innate talent. Therefore, his arrival made the entire academy rejoice. Every Holy Mountain disciple was complacent, hoping to perform well in front of the holy son. After interrogating, Su-yi already knew the general situation of the academy. There were a few hundred teachers in this branch academy, all of whom were Origin emperors. Below the dean, there were 3 assistant deacons, all of whom were above the 2nd level of Origin Ancestor Realm. The dean was even at the 3rd level of Origin Ancestor Realm. This time, the dean had received the news of the 5th holy son passing through the central continent with great difficulty, so he had invited them to attend the personal disciple ceremony. Moreover, Elder Su and Elder Lu were specially escorting them. The personal disciple ceremony with the 5th holy son's arrival could be said to be the biggest event in the entire Holy Mountain Academy, or even the central continent city, in the past year. No one dared to be negligent, afraid that there would be even the slightest ripple. After understanding the situation, Su-yi's brows furrowed even more. It seemed like he had poked a huge hornet's nest. Yunqing, however, didn't care at all. She said softly, "In addition to the central continent city, there will be at least a few 100,000 people attending this personal disciple ceremony. How about it? Are you scared?" Her beautiful cherry lips opened and closed. What she meant was that if Sui was scared, he could beg her and she would help Sui. Sui smiled and thought to himself. He had the Emperor's Sparrow, the mysterious ball of light, and the killing intent of the blood demon killing god's sword. Now, he even had the cloud shadow treading frost step. With the new and old grudges added together, it was enough for Sui to settle with the holy mountain. Even if it wasn't enough, there was no need to worry about escaping. Scared? I'll kill whoever comes to the holy mountain. If a pair comes, I'll kill a pair. If anyone dares to steal my sky crystal, I'll kill them without mercy. Sui said faintly, but his eyes were filled with boundless coldness, causing the already cold forest to become even more bleak and desolate. After saying that, Sui released a boundless chi wave into the sky, and a boundless energy wave surrounded the entire forest like a sea, as if he was about to fight the holy mountain. However, Sui quickly calmed down. The holy mountain was the strongest force in the central state. Even if all of the holy mountain's disciples were added together, the current Sui wouldn't be able to contend against them. You're quite brave. Then what are you going to do? Yunjing tilted her head and put her hands on her waist. Her black eyebrows and snow-white skin were full of sparkling light. Let's go find the crimson water crystal first. I'll kill anyone who tries to stop me. Besides, don't I still have you? Sui turned his head and looked at Yunjing with a deep and boundless gaze as he said indifferently. Yunjing's strength was definitely above his. With Yunjing by his side, he would have an additional trump card. Since she insisted on pestering him, he might as well let her be his protective shield. Sui immediately looked at Yunjing with a smile. Yunjing's bright eyes and snow-white lips saw the surging killing intent in Sui's eyes and pretended to be shy as she said, "Who said I'm going to help you? We have a bet." After Sui finished speaking, he walked to the edge of the giant pit and continued to interrogate the two holy mountain disciples, ignoring Yunjing. This made Yunjing, who was acting alone, feel very awkward. The best way to deal with such a woman was to leave her hanging and ignore her. Moreover, this was already the second time Sui ignored Yunjing. Yunjing glared at him and spat, but there was nothing she could do. She could only stand aside angrily and watch Sui interrogate the holy mountain disciples. Sui's charming and cold aura spread out as he coldly looked at the two holy mountain disciples again. Ouyang Jinwei and Li Ling, who from the holy mountain came to welcome the fifth holy child. A trace of surprise flashed in the eyes of the two disciples. Their eyes trembled and their bodies trembled like pendulums as they blurted out, You're the ones who caused trouble in the city last night." Ouyang Jinwei had ordered the holy mountain guards to search the entire 100-herb mountain in a low-key manner and not leak any information, but the low-level guards had already spread the news and knew that Sui was the culprit last night. "Speak, who else is there?" Yunjing could not do anything to Sui, so she vented her anger on the two holy mountain disciples. She rushed forward and shook her arm. A long wood attribute light dragon roared out from her sleeve and coiled around the two disciples. The fresh smell of wood chips was full of killing intent. Yunjing exerted a little force and broke the two disciples' arms. Painful screams came from the forest one after another. The two holy mountain disciples' breathing was weak and their faces were pale. Soon, they were tortured by Yunjing to the point where they wished they were dead. "So noisy. Explode!" Yunjing shouted loudly. She clenched her fist, and Yuanqi light instantly surged. The violent wood dragon energy directly exploded in the sky. Suddenly, a thunder-like explosion came from the deep pit. The thighs of the two were twisted at the same time. After Sui saw this, his eyes darkened and he sighed in his heart. This girl was extremely beautiful, but when she was angry, she was so terrifying. And Elder Wang is here too. The holy mountain disciple with his hair tied up in a bun obviously could not bear such torture. His tightly bound hands were pinched into the wood dragon, dripping with blood and tears of fear. Okay, go to hell. Yun Jing glared fiercely at Sui. A terrifying force swept out and the wood dragon exploded, crushing the two disciples. Scarlet blood splattered everywhere in the huge pit. It was a horrifying scene. Sui immediately panicked and rushed forward. Just as he was about to clarify the matter, the two of them had already breathed their last and couldn't be any more dead. Seeing that there was no more life in the huge pit, Sui frowned and turned to look at Yun Jing with a bit of complaint in his eyes. Why did you kill them so quickly? Yun Jing waved her hand and the earth attribute Yuan Qi under her hand was immediately activated. A sonic boom sounded and the huge pit on the ground was directly filled, turning into a flat ground in an instant. Humph, if I didn't kill them, would you care about me? Care about you. Are you an autistic? I haven't asked clearly, don't follow me. Little Sue, say it again. Yun Jing had lived for so long and it was the first time someone had offended her like this. She was furious and pounced on Sui like a koala bear. Sui immediately stiffened and said in a deep voice, "Get down." "No, I won't. I'm tired, carry me on your back." Yun Jing did not allow any explanation and directly wrapped her snow-white hands around Sui's neck. Sui was a little shy and instantly his neck turned red. Seeing that Sui was checkmated, Yun Jing was very happy and her mood improved a lot. Let's go and take a look at that lousy personal disciple ceremony. Yun Jing sat on Sui's back and ordered loudly. Her eyes were full of smiles. Suddenly, Yun Jing, who was riding on Sui's back, patted him on the shoulder, indicating for him to look ahead. In the distance, 4 holy mountain disciples were walking towards them, 2 men and 2 women, dressed in holy mountain inner disciple attire. Chapter 15:21. Is there a need for us inner court disciples to look for 2 holy mountain guards that have gone missing? I'll surely kill these 2 guards for delaying our disciple ceremony. A holy mountain disciple in golden combat robes spoke with a displeased expression, and he used the sword in his hand to ceaselessly strike the weeds before him. Junior Sister Mo Qing, the Holy Mountain Academy has been implicated because of that little thief Sui. Now that the 5th holy sun has come with great difficulty, there can surely not be any mishaps. It's always good to be more vigilant. The man that spoke was at the 6th level of the Origin Void stage. Duan Hong, is there a need for you to say anything? You don't have the qualifications to participate, but I do. Cut the crap. The other 2 holy mountain disciples laughed as they looked at Yun Jing, who suddenly revealed her head and reprimanded loudly. Who's there? In the time it took for a spark to fly off a piece of flint, 4 golden lights charged into the forest and appeared above the enormous pit. The tips of their blades were pointed at each other with cold lights, and they revealed vigilant expressions as they looked at Sui, who carried Yun Qing on his back. Sui had a helpless expression as he rolled his eyes and faintly said to Yun Qing, who was above him, "She's already here. Why aren't you coming down?" Sui shook up and down as he indicated for Yun Qing to quickly come down, and he grumbled in his heart that this woman really knew how to cause trouble. Yun Jing stuck out her tongue and climbed down embarrassedly, then she clapped her hands and smiled sweetly as she spoke with an innocent expression. "Ayaya, we've attracted people again. I'm sorry, Sui. Don't be angry, I'll help you ask them who Elder Wang is." Yun Jing pressed her palms together and bowed towards Sui with extreme embarrassment. Sui instantly shook his head in his heart. My God, where can I find such a fierce young lady? She's good-looking, but unfortunately she's an idiot. Her cultivation is profound, but unfortunately she doesn't know anything. Can she really help me if I bring her to the disciple ceremony? Su Yi's gaze sank and emitted a cold light as he looked at the 4 holy mountain disciples with Yunqing. Su Yi. You're Su Yi. The expressions of the 4 holy mountain disciples changed at the same time. Golden light yuan qi rose from their hands, and the multicolored illusory shadows suddenly appeared. Energy erupted, and without any explanation, it directly greeted Su Yi, splitting his body into countless illusory shadows. Bang! You are courting death. You guys are not enough. Yunqing was displeased when she saw the Holy Mountain's disciples suddenly attack. Her gaze sank as she formed a hand seal. With a flick of his arm, hundreds of vines around his body turned into vines that instantly streaked across the sky. A dragon even more ferocious than before swept out, devouring the 4 disciples of the Holy Mountain. Roar! The wooden dragon's image roared, causing the forest to tremble and the world to shake. It was like a surging wave that suddenly extinguished all 4 golden lights, and a boundless and awe-inspiring pressure pressed down towards the 4 of them. Clang clang! The vines were as thick as dragons. Dark green light shuttled back and forth, directly shaking the space and clashing with the metal elemental yuan qi. Only the sharp sound of wind breaking could be heard. It was as if the entire mountain was about to be torn apart and the void shook. Woo woo! Under the astonished gazes of the crowd, the 4 holy mountain disciples' auras dissipated in the blink of an eye. Their entire body was firmly bound above the huge pit, wrapped in dense vines. Looking at Yunqing's figure rushing forward, everyone's expression changed from solemn to frightened. Mo Qing, who was full of vigor just a moment ago, was quickly filled with a look of horror. Pa pa! A few loud slaps made the holy mountain disciples see stars and their souls disappear. Yunqing's incomparably powerful strength had not been fully displayed, and in one round, she had imperceptibly caused them to lose their fighting strength. Yunqing's crescent brows rose and coldness filled the air. Her face was no longer as gentle and cute as before. Like an ice fairy, she looked at the holy mountain disciples and said, "If you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Let me ask you, who is the elder Wang that Ouyang Jinwei brought?" Everyone was frightened. They knew that Su Yi was terrifying, but they did not expect the woman beside Su Yi to be even more terrifying. Her face changed in a matter of minutes. It was truly frightening. The female disciple of the Holy Mountain who had spoken just now was already weeping. Her hazy eyes were filled with tears. Her figure suddenly moved, and the genuine qi in her body surged wildly due to Yunqing's fury. Her entire body was trembling. We don't know Elder Wang. We are just inner sect disciples," the female disciple in the lead said, as if she was looking at the terrifying messenger of hell. Bang! Yunqing's eyes darkened, and killing intent surged. The wooden dragon stretched out again, and a terrifying light flashed in its green eyes. With a slight force, a male disciple beside her bled from his 7 orifices, and his brain burst out. With another force, the female disciple beside her was also torn apart. "We really don't know him. Please, let us go." The female disciple had already broken down and cried. She was tied up and could not move at all. She had been cultivating in the Holy Mountain Academy. Seeing her fellow disciples fall down one by one, her heart was filled with horror. "I know him. I think his name is Wang Chuanda." The male disciple at the side pretended to be calm and told Yunqing, hoping that Yunqing would show mercy. "It's really him. Yunqing, please show mercy." Su Yi sneered and walked forward. He instructed Yunqing to leave their clothes and tokens, as well as everyone's interspatial bags. Boom! After a moment, Yunqing's wood elemental genuine qi surged out. She turned around and was like a killing god. Without a sound, the few disciples of the Holy Mountain lost their voices. Yunqing took the clothes and walked forward. When she saw Su Yi, she smiled and said, "For you. Wear this to the personal disciple ceremony?" Su Yi's lips curled into a smirk. "Since they want to capture me, Why don't I send myself to them and take the crimson clear sky crystal under their noses? Besides, there was a woman with such terrifying strength. Sui did not have to worry at all. You've got guts, huh? Fun, fun, let's go. Yunqing clapped her hands and laughed. Listening to Suyi's plan, there was a glimmer of anticipation in her eyes. She quickly pulled Suyi's arm. Then, 2 disciples of the holy mountain walked out from the forest. Their hair was tied up in a bun, and they were dressed in the same way as the 2 holy mountain disciples who had just died. They were none other than Suyi and Yunqing. On the horizon, clouds drifted, and warm sunlight sprinkled down, dyeing the flat ground of the 100-herb mountain golden yellow. Suyi knew that something big was about to happen. Let's go and take a look at the personal disciple ceremony. Suyi took a deep breath and said with determination in his eyes. Yunqing and Suyi looked at each other and smiled, then walked toward the Holy Mountain Academy. The 2 of them turned into a streak of golden light and arrived at the Holy Mountain Academy's entrance. The 100-herb Mountain Academy was located in the depths of the 100-herb Mountain. It was one of the Holy Mountain's branch academies in Central Oblast. The Liang family residence was built on top of the Grand Hall. The reliefs were vivid and lifelike, resplendent in gold and jade, and the hall was densely packed. Looking from afar, it was as if golden scales were sprinkling down on the mortal world. The dazzling light represented the Holy Mountain's prestige, invincible and unstoppable. The 2 of them walked to the front of the Holy Mountain Academy. The front of the Holy Mountain Academy's entrance blocked out the sun. Yunqing's eyes narrowed as she looked at the magnificent buildings. I finally see a decent Holy Mountain Academy. This Holy Mountain has some foundation. Chapter 1522. Hearing Yunqing's words, Suyi's eyes slightly sank. The vast expanse of temples covered the sky and covered the earth. The magnificent 100-grass mountains stood tall. Under the rays of the rising sun, the golden tiles and emeralds appeared to be glittering with golden light, like a soaring dragon connecting with the heavens. Compared to the Central State's City Lord's mansion, this place was like reaching into the clouds. The towering temples showed the 10,000 years of heritage of the Holy Mountain. Looks like her origin is really extraordinary. Suyi inwardly speculated. The world was so big, and the further one went, the more new things one would feel. Suyi was not surprised that Yunqing would say such big words. Just this 100-herb Mountain Academy is already so big, how many other academies are there in the Central State? Adding it all up, the Holy Mountain definitely has tens of millions of disciples. Suyi's heart suddenly burned with a raging fire, and an inexplicable fighting spirit erupted like a volcano. Roughly speaking, the Chaos Realm added together could not compare to a single holy mountain. His Bawang sect needed to quickly develop. Not only did he need to become stronger, the Bawang sect could not stay on a small mountain and be a frog in a well. After pondering for a long time, Suyi took out the disciple token he had snatched from a holy mountain disciple. On it was written, Inner Sect 9 Mansions, Duan Hong. Suyi immediately knew that this holy mountain disciple was called Duan Hong, an inner disciple of the 9 mansions. The holy mountain disciples were divided according to their strength. They were divided into 9 mansions, and one of them was the strongest. In other words, this Duan Hong was considered weak in the entire inner sect, so the academy would send people like him who were weaker and had no expectations to search for the missing holy mountain guards. This Duan Hong's talent seems to be sloppy and ordinary, so he suffered quite a lot. Suyi looked at the token in his hand and smiled faintly in his heart. It's okay, I'll help you vent your anger if anyone bullies you. I'll help you collect the debt. Seeing the token in Suyi's hand, Yunqing also took out her token and pointed at it. She said softly, What I wrote here is Mo Qing, Inner Sect 8 Prefectures. There's nothing special about him. His strength is unsightly. Suyi's eyes were focused. Following his disguise, he and Yun Qing slowly walked in. "Let's go in and take a look." Just as they walked through the gates of the Holy Mountain Academy, the first thing that entered their eyes was the beautiful vegetation between the carved beams and painted pillars. They saw that everyone had a hurried expression and had no time to pay attention to Su-yi and Yun Qing. The two of them also looked around. It was their first time entering the sacred mountain, and everything was both surprising and dangerous. Looking carefully, he saw that the inner court disciples occupied the 9 fan-shaped platforms with the best terrain in the center. From the middle of the platforms, it was the inner court disciples, and the remaining areas were the outer court disciples and nominal disciples. The atmosphere is bustling as expected. Sui nodded to himself. To avoid being exposed, he secretly circulated the fog flower mirror snow, and water attribute origin energy instantly spread out. His origin energy was instantly restrained to the extreme, and his cultivation dropped once again to the 6th level of the origin void stage, matching Duan Hong's original aura. With a glance, he found the platforms of the 9 inner court disciples. Su-yi hurriedly walked into the crowd of the 9 mansions and looked from afar. Yun Qing was looking at him from platform number 8. Sui raised his brows and pretended not to know her. Yun Qing instantly waved her fist in the crowd and fiercely stared at him. Looking at the middle platform again, the group of city governor's estate members accompanied a few vice deacons to the middle platform and sat down, exchanging greetings with each other. Everyone had a solemn expression. The arrival of the 5 holy sons in the city today was obviously fully prepared. The people below were discussing animatedly, and a few disciples besides Su-yi said in a light voice, "The city governor's estate is still inferior to our sacred mountain academy after all. Look at that city governor Ouyang. He's so respectful to our vice deacons. Only by entering the sacred mountain can one stand out and make a name for oneself." "That's because you don't know. Zhang Dan, let me tell you, this city governor Ouyang has a daughter that's as beautiful as a flower. She's called Ouyang Jinwei, and she became Elder Ru Shan's disciple in the sacred mountain. Her natural talent is extraordinary, and she almost entered that sequence. The most important thing is that pair of beautiful legs, those curves." After the disciple beside him finished speaking, his eyes were filled with lewdness and wretchedness, and his eyes emitted a bright light. Su-yi heavily snorted, and coldness flickered in his eyes. "This woman has quite a lot of fans. My bet with her is still there." "Are you serious? Didn't I hear that she lost to that Su-yi? She almost became Su-yi's wife. That would be a reckless waste of God's gift." Chapter 15:23. Another disciple gritted his teeth and said fiercely, "Pa, him? He's the only one who made a name for himself. Elder Ice Cauldron was blinded. If he were in front of me, Sun Hao, I'd skin him alive. That dog who doesn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I don't believe he's that powerful." "Yeah, we can't climb up to the Holy Maiden. If we can climb up to Ouyang Jinwei, we'll be like fish in water in the Holy Mountain." Su-yi's heart was immediately filled with anger. He thought to himself, "I still have Lu Ruashi. If I let you know, I'll anger you to death." His finger moved slightly, and boundless energy pointed at the elbow of the disciple who was speaking beside him. "Pa!" A crisp slap landed on Sun Hao's face. Zhang Dan's face was filled with confusion as he looked at his own palm, not knowing what was going on. "You motherf asterisk cur. I told you so much, and you still hit me? Are you trying to snatch it from me? I didn't hit you. I'm looking from afar." "Stop being so long-winded." Another crisp sound rang out. Sun Hao also firmly slapped Zhang Dan's face. Immediately, the two were entangled in a fight. At this moment, on the 9th high platform, everyone was rubbing shoulders. Everyone was eagerly looking at the high platform in the middle, looking forward to what would be different about today's personal disciple ceremony. Therefore, no one was paying attention to this little quarrel. Hey, senior brothers, stop fighting, stop fighting. Su-yi turned his head and advised. Duan Hong, shut up for me, trash. What qualifications do you have to participate in our matters? Even you want to participate in the personal disciple ceremony? I'll send you home directly in a while. After speaking, Sun Hao's face was punched again, and he fought with Zhang Dan again. Su-yi's mouth suddenly raised into a smile, and he didn't say anything else. At this time, someone beside him shouted, and Su-yi immediately frowned. Ouyang Jinwei and Elder Wang are here. Swish. Everyone's eyes were fixed on the figures flying over from afar. Ouyang Jinwei descended from the sky like a fairy and quickly sat down. Her short skirt with a golden phoenix pattern outlined a perfect curve, revealing a pair of extremely long legs. Her snow-white skin was like white jade under the sunlight. Her cold and arrogant temperament was like a goddess looking down on the heavens, overlooking the entire world, incomparably cold and elegant. Li Ling, who was standing behind him, had changed into a fiery red short dress. Her towering chest made everyone's breath catch in their throat. Compared to Ouyang Jinwei's arrogance, Li Ling was much more amiable and approachable. She was full of smiles. Behind the two of them stood dozens of sacred mountain guards and disciples, as well as a few people who looked like elders. One of them looked to be in his 50s, close to his 50s. He was dressed in a long gown, and the patterns on his shoulders were like badges. His slender face was full of vicissitudes, and his expression was solemn. He was not affected by the lively atmosphere of the conference at all. Wang Chuanda, buzz. Blood qi suddenly poured into his mind from his body, and the violent fighting intent in his body was ignited at this moment. A few years had passed, and Su-yi had always remembered Wang Chuanda's appearance in his heart. Looking at Wang Chuanda, Su-yi was like a god of death. His killing intent soared, and an uncontrollable coldness shot towards the high platform like a bolt of cold lightning. In the distance, on the high platform, Wang Chuanda seemed to have felt an incomparably strong killing intent from the crowd. His sharp eyes scanned the entire venue, and after searching for a long time, he still did not give up. Su-yi also suppressed the anger in his heart and looked at Yun Qing on the 8th platform. She was shaking her head at him, as if saying, "Patience, 10 years is not too late for a gentleman to take revenge." Then, Su-yi withdrew his gaze and looked in front of him like an ordinary person, his eyes filled with frost. The holy maiden is only SOSO. That Su-yi doesn't even want this, what an idiot. Sun Hao, who had been beaten, looked at Ouyang Jinwei. His nose was bruised and his face was swollen, but his eyes were still filled with hearts. Senior sister Li Ling next to her is also very beautiful. But why is Elder Wang standing behind these two senior sisters? A disciple on the side looked at them with some doubt. Sun Hao heavily snorted, and said with a bit of hatred, "Elder Wang was originally ranked high in the Holy Mountain, but wasn't it all because of that Su-yi? He was not lightly dealt with by the higher-ups. Some time ago, because of the Li family's matter, he was promoted to elder. His rank is too low, and he has no real power. Naturally, he is not in the eyes of a genius direct disciple like Ouyang Jinwei." After saying this, Sun Hao softly said again, "I heard that Elder Wang still hasn't given up and wants to find the Li family's secret this time. So that's how it is. I'll let you have an afternoon meeting." Su-yi's eyes flashed with cold electricity. This Wang Chuanda has never done anything good. This time I'll settle the score with you. He clenched his fists, and his knuckles turned white from the pressure. At this time, on the high platform in the middle, Ouyang Yuanfeng and Ouyang Jinwei exchanged glances. Ouyang Jinwei said to Li Ling, "Senior sister, those 3 people still haven't been caught, and the Academy's guards are also missing. That thief must be hiding here. I'm afraid that something will happen." After saying this, Ouyang Jinwei and Li Ling thought of a name at the same time, but they didn't say it out loud. Li Ling thought for a while, then lowered her voice and said to Ouyang Jinwei, I don't know how the personal disciple ceremony will be carried out. Since it has come to this, let's wait. Before it's confirmed, you and I must participate in the personal disciple ceremony to ensure that there won't be any problems. If it's confirmed, we must report it to Elder Su and Elder Lu in a timely manner, and let them discuss with the dean about how to deal with it. Ouyang Jinwei nodded lightly. Looking at the many boys in front of her who adored her, she was still proud and aloof. Suddenly, an incomparably heavy voice came from the horizon, resounding through the entire venue. Immediately, the boiling crowd quieted down. Everyone's expression was solemn as they respectfully looked up at the sky. The fifth Holy Sun has arrived. The Holy Mountain's disciplinary pavilion's Elder Su and Elder Lu have arrived. The Holy Mountain's Deacon Xianyuan has arrived. The guard's voice was like a large bell, echoing throughout the 100-herb mountain. Immediately, the Holy Mountain Academy's banners fluttered in the wind, and the resplendent roof tiles began to tremble slightly. Woo! Woo! In a row, dozens of Holy Mountain's guards on the high platform raised a horn that was as tall as a person and blew it with all their might. The sound waves shook the sky, sonorous and resonant. The already boiling hearts were pushed to the limit once again. Every Holy Mountain's disciple's eyes shone with excitement. The surrounding Holy Mountain's disciples were shouting, Welcome to the Holy Sun's arrival. Welcome to the Elder's arrival. Welcome to the Deacon's return. 3 consecutive shouts sounded as if they had been rehearsed, shouting towards the sky in unison. Regardless of whether it was a man or a woman, all of them were solemn and dignified. The entire venue became incomparably solemn. Only Su Yi and Yunqing, who was on the 8th platform, looked at each other with furrowed brows. It seemed that the Holy Mountain Academy had given them enough face today. The Holy Sun's status in the Holy Mountain was self-evident. Chapter 1524. Amidst the shouts that filled the sky, the clear sky suddenly exploded with golden light, and holy light filled the sky. The Dharma images in the sky were like the Xiantian war lord from ancient times, looking down on all the evil ants in the world. A boundless aura descended upon the venue as if it was suppressing all living things. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. At this moment, a few tiny golden lights shone in the sky in front of them. A few gigantic Holy King images flew toward the high platform rapidly. One step covered 10 miles, and one breath covered 10,000 miles. Suddenly, the sky trembled and the ground shook. A rumbling sound reverberated in the depths of the sky, shaking the surroundings. A vast aura permeated from the sky. Rays of light shot into the sky, and shadows of clouds intersected. The distant clouds were stirred by the holy and domineering aura. The sky suddenly lit up, and rays of light flickered between heaven and earth. The golden light covered the sky and the sun, making people feel uneasy. Holy King Aura. Su Yi's eyes flickered. He was very familiar with the Holy King Aura. The Holy Fire Elder, Naran Ryu, and Chu Zhonghuan had all used it against him. The 100-herb mountain was like a volcanic eruption. The sound waves rushed into the sky, and the rays of light in the sky trembled. The images covered the sky as if they were going to swallow the sun and the moon. Under the excited gazes of the crowd, a few tiny figures gradually solidified. The 5th saint was in the lead. His golden red robe was overflowing with light, as if he had obtained the essence of heaven and earth. His long black hair flowed like a waterfall, like the splendor of Kunlun's beautiful jade. On his handsome face, he stood with his hands behind his back. He was gentle and elegant, but he did not lose his domineering aura. His figure was reflected by the gigantic and hazy images. An unparalleled arrogance spread from his forehead. The holy light around him was like a flood, as if he was a supreme god that suppressed the world, as if he was going to obliterate everything. Zhonglu's face was as calm as an ancient well. An obscure and powerful aura surged around him as he slowly scanned the entire venue. The light in his eyes was extremely dazzling, and the holy aura on his body carried a powerful aura that could sweep everything in all directions. Yes, the fifth saint became even more spirited. I'm impressed. Deacon Xianyuan behind him smiled and stroked his beard. His eyes were filled with endless admiration. It's the fifth holy son. Senior sister, the saint is already at the second level of the Origin Emperor realm. The arrival of the fifth holy son also made Ouyang Jinwei, who had always been proud and aloof, unable to sit still. She tightly pulled Li Ling, who was beside her, and her eyes suddenly shone. She didn't dare to look directly at him, and only dared to secretly glance at him. Li Ling also had a smile in her eyes. Seeing the fifth holy son's dazzling appearance, as if he had arrived at the heavens, her face flushed with joy. When Ouyang Yuanfeng, who had been waiting for a long time, saw that the fifth holy child had already stepped onto the sacred light platform, he immediately led the central continent city guards to half kneel and roar. Fifth holy son Fuan. Welcome, fifth saint. Behind Ouyang Yuanfeng, Deacon Xianyuan also half knelt. All of the disciples present also half knelt. Their eyes were incomparably sincere as they followed Ouyang Yuanfeng and shouted in unison. At this moment, Su Yi and Yun Jing, who were on the 9th platform, seemed to have discussed it beforehand. Even when all the disciples were kneeling, they still stood up straight and proudly faced them. Su Yi's eyes were filled with a trace of a tit-for-tat killing intent and battle intent. Like a cold light, a bloody aura shot toward Xiahong House like a sword. You want me, Su Yi, to kneel to you? This is simply the biggest joke in the world. Su Yi coldly laughed in his heart. In the face of a brilliant 100,000 disciples kneeling, Xiahong House's eyes finally flashed with a trace of an undetectable fluctuation. When he looked around again, he caught sight of Su Yi and Yun Jing, who were not kneeling. A faint trace of coldness appeared in his calm eyes, but he did not show it too much. Immediately after, Xiahong House slowly opened his mouth to everyone present. Every word was powerful and resonant, like the sonorous sound of wind and thunder. The incomparably sharp saint ruler chi around his body was accompanied by the energy of heaven and earth, sweeping across the entire sacred light platform. Everyone rise. Everyone immediately stood up. The reverence in their eyes was overflowing with words and expression. Some of the crazy female disciples had already fainted a few times when they saw Xiahong House's incomparably handsome face before the ceremony had even begun. Wow! A deep voice that was filled with magnetism was heard, causing everyone to exclaim in unison. Saint! It's the saint of Xiahong House. I finally see him in person. So handsome! He is already at the second level of the Origin Emperor realm before the age of 30. What kind of talent is this? Some of the female disciples covered their faces and exclaimed. I must enter the sacred mountain and look at the saint, then look at us. He faces the saint every day, then look at us. Comparisons are odious. Some of the male disciples at the side were beating their chest and stamping their feet. Before the personal disciple ceremony even began, they were already suppressed by the fifth saint. Su Yi gradually retracted his gaze. His heart was indeed in awe. When he just exchanged glances with the fifth saint, Su Yi's heart suddenly throbbed. Immediately after, he hurriedly circulated the art of driving heaven, and the heaven origin demon's soul finally calmed down. Su Yi rarely had such a feeling, especially when it came to the control of soul force. He was actually at a disadvantage. It is indeed him. He is also a soul controller, and extremely powerful. In the blink of an eye, Su Yi made a few judgments about the Xiahong House. Just the fact that he was able to find a little killing intent among thousands of people meant that he was many times better than trash like Wang Chuanda. Furthermore, with only the cultivation of the second level of the Origin Emperor realm, He was able to display the might of the Saint Monarch Chi to the extent that it was not weaker than the Origin Ancestor realm. No one present could compare to such talent. Even among the saints, he should be a rare existence. Compared to Narenryu, the difference was like heaven and earth. The most crucial point was that the Xiahong house seemed to be even stronger than when he met them at the Spirit Treasures Pavilion. Such speed of improvement was not something that could be determined by talent alone. Su Yi's heart was filled with coldness. The Xiahong house was not as simple as Narenryu or Chu Zhonghuan. At that moment, Su Yi had already viewed the Xiahong house as a future enemy. This was because he could feel that the Xiahong house's strength was absolutely terrifying. He might be like himself, a freak that surpassed his level. While he was muttering to himself, Su Yi's primordial spirit emitted an angry voice. He turned his gaze to the 8th high platform and saw Yun Jing rolling her eyes at the Xiahong house. I was still wondering who it was. Do you really think that you are a sacred venerate of the sacred mountain? Yun Jing looked down on the Xiahong house's arrogant attitude. She sent a message to Su Yi via Yuan Qi transmission. Her beautiful face was filled with disdain and contempt. Her crescent-shaped eyes were filled with disgust. Indeed, all the saints and saintesses of the sacred mountain are arrogant and conceited. It is hard to like them. Su Yi chuckled softly. In this aspect, Su Yi and Yun Jing were like-minded. He is only at the 2nd level of the Origin Emperor realm at this age. Even you are stronger than him. Do you hate him too? I will help you destroy him. Chapter 1525. Yun Jing pouted. Her soft body was being squeezed around by the crazy disciples around her. She had long been annoyed by the crazed shouts of the saint's fans. Looking at the 5th saint in front of her, a trace of killing intent appeared in the depths of Yun Jing's eyes. She was about to circulate her Yuan Qi. Su Yi said coldly, the cold light from the corner of his eyes fixed on the figure on the platform of holy light. Don't act rashly. I will kill him myself. You don't have to do it. I, Su Yi, will take revenge for what happened to the holy mountain. All right then. Yun Jing spread her hands and said. Immediately, Yun Qing secretly transmitted her voice through the vowels. Hey, little Su Yi. What? Su Yi replied. You're still better looking. Su Yi looked over again. Yun Qing had a smile on her face, and her starry eyes were like the bright moon in the sky blinking at him. It was strange that Yun Qing did not even fancy the snow-red house's appearance. Her taste was really high. To be honest, your taste is very high. Su Yi replied faintly, his face expressionless. Haha, shameless. Yun Qing made a funny face after hearing that. Then, she and Su Yi looked at the Sacred Light platform together. Looking at the Sacred Light platform, the Snow-Red House and the Sacred Mountain Elders had already taken their seat. At this moment, Ouyang Yuanfeng and Wang Chuanda walked over to the Snow-Red House with respectful expressions. They reported the situation somewhat cautiously and whispered to each other. They had no intention of starting the personal disciple ceremony immediately. Looks like there's a change in the personal disciple ceremony. Yun Qing exclaimed softly. Su Yi's eyes narrowed. Since it was already the personal disciple ceremony, he might as well take things as they came. He transmitted his Yuan Qi to Yun Jing and said, Tell me, what did you say just now? What do you mean by, I'm stronger than him? After hearing that, Yun Jing chuckled and said softly, That can't be helped. You're just a little stronger than him. Compared to me, you're just too insignificant. Su Yi asked the question that had been on his mind for a long time. What is your cultivation level? Why can't I detect your aura? Pfft. Yun Qing covered her mouth and laughed. You want to detect my cultivation level with your little cultivation level? You've indeed inherited the golden dragon's blood essence. But you should cultivate first. After we flattened the sacred mountain, I'll let you. Yunjing's words immediately hit Su Yi's weak spot. Su Yi's goal had always been to reach the peak of martial arts, to become a god, to comprehend Tao, and to solve the mystery of his birth. Unfortunately, even with Su Yi's amazing speed, he was still too weak. Su Yi was clear that the sacred mountain was but a small footnote in the long river of his life. I will continue to become stronger, Su Yi roared in his heart. His aura increased without reason, like thousands of needles erupting. One day, I will be stronger than all of you. Duan Hong, what are you doing? You dare to not kneel when the Holy Sun is here. Are you tired of living? Zhang Dan felt Su Yi's surging aura and was filled with anger. The usual trash was acting abnormally today. His eyes were full of disdain. Sun Hao, who had reconciled, said with a sinister smile, I think junior brother Duan can't move after seeing Miss Ouyang. Unfortunately, Miss Ouyang only has Lord Holy Sun in her eyes. Are you sulking here? Ahahaha. Sun Hao's words ignited Su Yi's anger. His eyes were as cold as ice. Slowly looking at Sun Hao and Zhang Dan, a cold intent immediately spread out. The corner of his mouth hooked up into a smile as he lightly said, Just the two of you aren't even fit to carry Ouyang Jinwei's shoes. According to the script, Lu Ruoxi and Ouyang Jinwei were his fiancés in name. Unfortunately, things didn't go as he wished. Both of them had threatened to kill him. Even so, his fiancés weren't people a sacred mountain trash could criticize. You're itching for a beating. You trash. A toad wants to eat swan meat. Sun Hao was furious. He rolled up his sleeves and waved them at Su Yi. However, Zhang Dan blocked him. Forget it. Senior brother, the legacy ceremony is about to begin. Don't lower yourself to his level. Sun Hao's face was gloomy. When he heard Zhang Dan's words, he sneered and said, That's right. The legacy ceremony is about to begin. He emphasized the words, about to begin, with ill intentions. Su Yi was secretly pleased. Sorry, the swan meat in your eyes is worthless in my eyes. Ouyang Jinwei, Wang Chuanda, Xiahong House. I'll collect interest from each and every one of you today. Su Yi's anger surged into his blood vessels again. After a while, Deacon Xianyuan and the Fifth Holy Sun confirmed it again and again. Elder Lu nodded slightly. After pondering for a while, Deacon Xianyuan walked to the center of the sacred light platform. A vigorous voice instantly covered the entire venue. The chi of the origin ancestor realm immediately spread out. Su Yi's gaze turned solemn. If he didn't have the origin supreme technique and the heavenly demon ancient scripture, the chi of the Holy King would definitely be the strongest cultivation technique he had ever seen. The stronger the opponent, the stronger the opponent, the stronger the opponent. The golden holy light shrouded everyone like a curtain. They were bathed in the holy light and were covered in the holy light. Disciples of the sacred mountain branch, 100 Herb Academy, heed my command. Deacon Xuanyuan's voice was like thunder, shaking the world. Disciple is here. Everyone responded solemnly. Today, the Holy Sun has come to the city. 100 Herb Academy is honored. In this personal disciple ceremony, he would be granted unprecedented authority. With the 100 Herb Academy as the site and the sacred mountain as the eternal foundation, I hope everyone will do their best to cultivate and become the backbone of our sacred mountain. Disciple will remember, the fire of the sacred light is inextinguishable. The name of the sacred mountain will spread throughout the world. The sound of a tsunami once again made Su Yi secretly shocked. The foundation of a first-rate force was indeed not just for show. On a special day there are special rules. I will now announce the rules of the 100 Herb Academy's legacy ceremony. Deacon Xuanyuan's voice resounded again. The rules were as follows. In the past, the legacy ceremony would last for 10 days. It was divided into 3 rounds. talent retest, holy badges collection, and the final duel. Because the Holy Sun has come to the city this time, the number of participants will be the largest in history. The intensity of the competition is difficult to calculate, so the 3 rounds will be combined into 1 round. The time span will be shortened to 5 days. Moreover, Elder Su and Elder Lu had personally set up a barrier that covered the entire 100 Herb Mountain, including the sacred flame altar. Before the rules were finished, the entire venue was filled with exclamations. The flames of hope in many disciples' eyes were extinguished. At the side, Sun Hao, Zhang Dan, and the others were complaining. Their aptitudes were extremely mediocre in the Holy Mountain Academy. Even if they agreed to allow everyone to participate, it was impossible for them to compete with those people from the one mansion. It's not fair, it's not fair. The voices came like a tidal wave. Chapter 1526. Su Yi, on the other hand, looked calm. The rules of Zhongzhou Sect's competition had always been similar. Anyway, he was here for the 100 Herb Mountain's crimson water crystal. It didn't matter to him whether the competition was long or not. As long as he, Wang Chuanda, Xiahong House, Ouyang Jinwei, and the others could enter, he had nothing to worry about. Otherwise, Su Yi would still be worried about how to settle accounts with them under everyone's eyes. Hey! Let's listen again. Zhang Dan was also listless. She comforted Sun Hao and pointed at Su Yi, meaning that Duan Hong was even more unlucky. Sun Hao's face immediately looked better. On the Holy Light platform, the crowd's complaints made Deacon Xianyuan frown. Suddenly, a vast and boundless Holy King's aura filled the entire venue. The thick and old voice rose again. This competition is absolutely fair. The path of martial arts is based on strength. The Holy Mountain is not an easy sect. Who dares to disobey? Buzz. Deacon Xuanyuan's suddenly raised voice resounded through the world like thunder. The entire venue was dead silent. After a moment, the rules spoke again. The enchantment entrance is under the Holy Light platform. When the time comes, the entire 100 Herb Mountain will be surrounded. Within 5 days, no one can enter or exit the 100 Herb Mountain enchantment except for the people of the Academy. Winning rules. This time, the Holy Order collection will be changed to collecting soul-testing crystals. If there are enough soul-testing crystals in the enchantment, everyone's soul aptitude can be directly tested and will appear on the enchantment light screen. If the soul quality is excellent, they can directly become a direct disciple. The principle of the ceremony was, within the boundary, one could kill, fight, slaughter, and compete. Within the 100 Herb Mountain, one could freely enter and exit any forbidden area and any altar. The premise was that everyone could enter and exit with their lives intact. Time limit. Within 5 days, based on the number of soul-testing crystals, the top 1,000 can become the new batch of direct disciples of the Holy Mountain. Special rules. In the last 3 days, the Holy Sun, Elder Su and Elder Lu, Ouyang Jinwei, and Li Ling will enter the enchantment as observers to inspect the changes in each area at any time. Everyone has 5 places. Those who are favored can directly become direct disciples, and the sacred martial hall can choose from them. Secondly, those who can find the ultimate secret of the 100 Herb Mountain will directly become the sacred martial hall's chief elder Duanmu Xiongtu. Wow! The entire hall began to boil with excitement once more. Although there were many people present, those with the highest number would have the highest soul quality. As long as they could satisfy even one of the requirements, they would be able to become a direct disciple. As soon as the 2 special rules were revealed, everyone's eyes lit up. Directly become a personal disciple. Oh my God! That's an advancement card. Indeed. In the past, if one were to become a direct disciple and not catch the eye of a powerful elder, it would be hard to say which one would receive better resources than inner disciples. That's great. I want to go to the fifth Holy Sun's area and gain his favor. Following him is better than following any other elder. TSK, of course it's best to follow Elder Duanmu Xiong too. He is the current hall master of the sacred martial hall. Rumor has it that he has already peeked into that realm. Next to Su Yi, many disciples of the sacred mountain clenched their fists again. Even if they had to fight to the death for the soul-measuring crystal, they still had such an opportunity. This was simply a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The outer sect disciples and nominal disciples were no match for him. The real competition was actually within the inner sect. But where does the 100-Grass Mountain have so many soul-testing crystals? Zhang Dan asked softly. What do you think? Don't you know what the original clan of the 100-Grass Mountain does? Other than being secretive, this 100-Grass Mountain is simply a heaven-sent treasure. There are treasures everywhere. Zhang Dan leaned close to Su Yi's ear. Immediately, he heard everything clearly as he released his yuan qi. That is to say, the sacred mountain wants us to use the clan's resources as a bargaining chip, and they want us to seek out the clan's secrets? Shut up. We'll talk after we enter. Sun Hao's eyes flashed a crafty look. Su Yi's mind was as clear as a mirror. The sacred mountain was truly a brilliant move. The Li tribal clan had always been mysterious. There were all sorts of mystical things in the depths of the 100-Grass Mountain, and the soul-measuring crystals were hidden deep within. Using the 100-Grass Mountain disciples to excavate the soul-measuring crystals and conveniently finding the crimson aqua heaven crystal was much faster than searching for it themselves. They could also resolve the personal disciple ceremony and flatter the fifth Holy Sun. It was killing multiple birds with one stone. Furthermore, their main goal this time was to recruit a prodigy of the soul. Their ambitions were as clear as day. Indeed, the sacred mountain had to be so hypocritical and dignified just to find something. Su Yi understood why the fifth Holy Sun had come to the city. He sneered in his heart. However, 5 days was enough. Wang Chuanda would only enter after 3 days, which gave Su Yi the opportunity to show his prowess. Follow me when we enter. There's not only the sacrificial altar inside. All sorts of savage beasts gather in the depths of the 100-Grass Mountain. Zhang Dan immediately nodded like a chick pecking at rice. That fifth Holy Sun and 2 elders will be entering. Yunqing's faint voice sounded again. Just nice. I'll settle the score with Wang Chuanda first before finding Ouyang Jinwei and the Xiahong house. Su Yi raised his eyebrows as a detailed plan began to take shape in his mind. Yunqing paused for a moment before speaking to Su Yi again. She looked like she was watching a show with a smile. Those 2 old men have the holy ruler aura of a 6th-layer essence ancestor. Their combined attack is at least at the Yuan domain realm. You won't be able to block it. What do you think? Consider it. What do you think? Su Yi frowned, knowing that Yunqing made sense. Cultivators who could cultivate the holy ruler aura to such a level not only had great martial prowess, but the quality of their souls was also extremely strong. They could be said to be flawless. Without a strong suppression that surpassed one's cultivation, trying to take advantage of the situation was simply a fantasy. 1 Elder Lu was equivalent to 3 Chen Yes, not to mention Elder Su, whose cultivation was 1 level higher. The bet still stands. No matter who finds the crimson water heaven crystal, we'll split it in half, Yunqing said softly. Goodbye. Leaving no room for doubt, Su Yi cut off the essence voice transmission without even thinking, no longer speaking to Yunqing. Can't you give me a little of the crimson water heaven crystal? Just a little. Let's not talk about a little. If you dare to have any thoughts about the heaven crystal, I'll fight it out with you since I'm broke, Su Yi said with determination. After a moment of silence, Su Yi said to Yunqing, if I can get all the soul-measuring crystals, I'll give you half. Do you want it? The soul measuring crystals were evolved from primal crystals that absorbed the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. They were much more valuable than the primal measuring stones used by the sacred mountain. According to the market price, one soul measuring crystal should be worth 200,000 three-star primal stones. If they wanted to guarantee 1,000 personal disciples, the 100-herb mountain would have at least 1,000 soul measuring crystals. 500 soul measuring crystals was an astronomical figure. A 9-orifice restoration leaf was only worth 1 million three-star primal stones. Chapter 1527. For any sect, 500 soul-testing crystals was a huge fortune, not to mention the fact that the soul-testing crystals were currently in the Black Fog underground chamber. Even if one had the money, there was no market for them. This was because the soul-testing origin crystal, one of the purest existences in the world, had almost been completely excavated by cultivators. 100-herb mountain, as one of the few otherworldly treasure grounds, was absolutely rare in the world. After listening to Su Yi's words, Yun Qing's eyes darted around. She did some calculations and agreed. Okay, but if you can't get it, you'll owe me 500 soul measuring crystals. Yun Qing said to Su Yi maliciously. Okay. Su Yi agreed so readily that Yun Qing was a little confused. She didn't know what Su Yi was planning. Buzz. In the distance, holy light filled the void, and the sacred voice sounded again. In a moment, all disciples participating in the legacy ceremony, inner disciples, outer disciples, and right-in disciples, please come to the platform of holy light in order. Rumble. As soon as the voice fell, Deacon Xianyuan clapped his hands together. A monstrous aura swept across the entire area from his forehead. Suddenly, the entire platform of holy light rose up like a golden heavenly monument. The area below the platform of holy light seemed to be hollow. Golden light shone brightly, and a vast and ancient aura seemed to be suppressing all directions, crushing in all directions. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. In the snow-red house, Elder Su, Elder Lu, Ouyang Jinwei, Li Ling, and Wang Chuanda signaled to each other. Their figures flashed and appeared at the edge of the platform of holy light. Below the platform of holy light, a blazing circular light appeared at the corresponding position of each person. It was like a sun, and the vast energy fluctuated. The sacred aura rose and fell one after another. After the 6 people stood still, Elder Xianyuan continued. The 100 herbs enchantment is divided into 6 regions. Each region has a corresponding observer. The layer of holy light below represents the region where the observer is located. Every disciple, please carefully choose the region you wish to go to and strive for the highest chance of becoming a direct disciple. Suddenly, the entire square of holy light was filled with discussions. Many people were whispering to each other, discussing their destination. I want to go to the 5th Saints area. Even if I can't become a personal disciple, I will have no regrets in my life if I can see the Holy Sun a few more times. Some of the infatuated female disciples beside Yun Jing shouted. I want to go to Ouyang Jinwei's place. Normally, I don't get the chance to see Ouyang Jinwei up close. Who knows, we might even be able to say a few words. Besides Su Yi, there were also a few idiots who shouted loudly. They couldn't help but roll their eyes at this. On the other hand, Su Yi and Yun Jing were unusually calm as they stared at each other. Yun Jing asked softly, "Where are you going?" For the disciples of the Holy Mountain, the number of people in each region and the competitive situation were different. Whether one could become a direct disciple or not was directly related to the region they were going to. Of course, this didn't matter much to Su Yi and Yun Jing, who were in disguise. Yun Jing was only concerned about Su Yi's whereabouts. After pondering for a moment, Su Yi's dark eyes flashed with a trace of light as he said with determination, "Ouyang Jinwei's area." Yun Jing immediately jumped up and scolded in a sweet voice, "Humph! I knew it! You're up to no good. You want to take a few more glances at a beauty, right? Is she prettier than me? Sui scratched his ear and shook his head softly. How could it be because she's prettier? If I liked her, I would have agreed to the engagement at that time. What? You have an engagement with her? You're already womanizing at such a young age. How many do you have outside? Yun Jing said angrily. I said, do you like me or not? Yun Jing's chatter was immediately blocked by Su Yi's words. A trace of peach blossom color flashed across her face as she said softly, I just don't want you to die in the hands of a woman. You'll die in front of a woman. Su Yi cursed inwardly. This woman was really tigress and troublemaker. Then, he patiently explained. Obviously, among the 6 people, Xiahong House and Ouyang Jinwei are the most popular candidate. The number of people in their 2 regions is definitely the highest. Su and Lu have their eyes on the top of their heads and are bound to be very strict. As for Wang Chuanda, he doesn't have any real authority, so the number of people in their regions is definitely the lowest. The number of people in Li Ling's region is in the middle. It's neither high nor low. Hearing Su Yi's analysis, Yun Jing immediately grasped the main point and asked, then why don't you go to Xiahong House's region? Even if you use your toes to think, you'll know. Xiahong House's region has a lot of female disciples. I don't like to hit women. Su Yi's starry eyes flashed with a trace of unswerving determination. Yun Jing immediately made a face. Her impression of Su Yi improved by another point. 2 days. I want to obtain all the soul-testing crystals within 2 days. Therefore, I need to go to a place with a lot of people. Ouyang Jinwei's region has the most male cultivators. Only Ouyang Jinwei's region is most suitable for my plan. Hearing this, Yun Jing immediately nodded and said to Su Yi, okay, then I'll go there too. I'll see what you're up to. Can't you not follow me? Su Yi was very helpless. No. Yun Jing replied directly. According to Su Yi's plan, he would settle all the soul-testing crystals in 100 Herb Mountain within 2 days. Then, he could search for the secret of the crimson clear sky crystal in peace. When Xiahong House, Ouyang Jinwei, and Wang Chuanda came in, it would be time to settle the score with them. Woo woo woo. At this moment, 2 rows of sacred mountain guards held huge golden horns. Amidst the golden light, they once again blew a loud whimper. The muffled sound was deafening and shook the clouds. The sound shook the 9 heavens and the void trembled. Disciples of 100 Herb Mountain, enter the boundary. The vigorous and destructive old voice once again floated around the void of the sacred light square. After a moment of consideration, dense figures suddenly appeared in the low altitude of the venue that was shrouded in golden light. Countless small black figures rushed toward the sacred light platform like demonic beasts. Let's go. The yuan qi on Su Yi's body surged. After whispering to Yun Jing, the 2 of them blended into the crowd and rushed toward the sacred light platform. Countless silhouettes were displaying their origin qi of various attribute. Some were spinning in the air, some were bending, some were twisting, and some were gliding. In the time it took to blink, the entire golden light was filled with rainbows. Not long after, Su Yi and Yun Jing arrived in front of the sacred light platform. The huge golden light was like an arched door. The sacred light was overflowing, and the energy wind blew up waves of spatial ripples. The momentum was terrifying. Where did that kid Duan Hong go? Sun Hao shouted from behind. Duan Hong, who he used to look down on, seemed to be different today. With a leap, he disappeared without a trace. This made Sun Hao feel slightly strange. Chapter 1528. At this moment, Zhang Dan was also constantly searching for the figure of Duan Hong in the void. Narrowing his eyes, he suddenly saw 2 figures in front of the platform of sacred light, a man and a woman. Duan Hong seems to have gone to Ouyang Jinwei's area. He really wants to snatch Ouyang Jinwei from me. Let's go. We'll go there too. Let him stay there forever. Sun Hao secretly mocked, and a trace of killing intent flashed in his eyes. He was usually very unhappy with Duan Hong, and now he was completely enraged by Duan Hong's words. On the other side, Su Yi, who was in front of the platform of sacred light, was about to descend to the center of the platform of sacred light when his mind quickly felt a trace of killing intent surging in the undercurrent. He quickly spread out his spiritual sense and slightly raised his eyes to see the proud figure of Xiahong House. He was standing with his hands behind his back, looking coldly at the sky full of black figures scurrying into the gate of sacred light. Among the thousands of figures, Xiahong House and Su Yi stood far away. In an instant, time seemed to have stopped. Their eyes met, and both sides' eyes surged with great fighting intent. Between the black hair and snow-white skin, a pair of bright eyes were as deep as night pearls. The gradually surging killing intent could not be detected, and immediately Su Yi's heart trembled. What a strong killing intent! Su Yi was secretly shocked. The Origin Supreme technique was slightly activated, and the heavenly Origin Demon Soul was like a blazing sun. At the same time, the art of controlling the heavens flowed slowly along the great void divine sea. After a few breaths, his throbbing mind immediately calmed down. Xiahong House, we will meet again in a few days. Su Yi took a deep look, and the corner of his mouth curled up. He had already disguised himself, and since Xiahong House still took the initiative to kill him, then Su Yi's heart was only filled with boundless killing intent and anger towards Xiahong House. Xiahong House must die. A trace of decisive killing intent flashed in Su Yi's eyes. He had yet to settle the score of traveling thousands of miles to the Chaos region. Su Yi only had thoughts of destroying and crushing this man who wanted to kill him. Immediately, Su Yi's mind turned, and the vitality under his feet suddenly appeared. In a meteor of fire, he rushed towards Ouyang Jinwei's sacred light. Wait for me. Yun Jing glanced at the fifth holy sun, then followed Su Yi in a big stride. Amidst the astral wind, a beautiful figure rushed into the sacred light gate like an ethereal and lonely swan. That disciple just now hid his aura very well. Is there such a person in the 100 Herb Academy? At the same time, Xiahong House was also filled with fear. After hearing Ouyang Yuanfeng's report of last night's case, they had been paying attention to the entire venue. Standing proudly in the wind, the Xiahong Pavilion was suffused with boundless coldness. It was like the Son of God had descended from the heavens, and its disdainful aura covered the entire platform of light. 100 Grass Mountain deep within the barrier. The bamboo trees encircled each other, the pavilions were as tall as canopies. Countless tall and majestic trees stood around them. Between the jade trees, there were layers upon layers of verdant greenery. The forest was barren, and the faintly discernible clouds were like woven muslin, bringing a trace of tranquility and mystery in the vast expanse of green mountains. The sunlight was like a golden thread, shedding warmth through the gaps between the leaves. Very quickly, the warmth was buried by the shadows. It seemed that the warmth would not last long here. In the depths of the mountains that had been uninhabited for a long time, the trees were green, but there was a trace of desolation and bleakness. The pine trees rustled, and the branches and leaves danced in the wind. The weather-beaten tree trunks were covered in countless scars left behind by battles. Chi-la! You guys go over there and search. We'll go over there and search. As long as you find a soul-testing origin crystal, use the sound transmission stone to inform each other. You must not leak any information. And this quickly. A man dressed in golden robes ordered the young disciples in front of him. Whoosh whoosh. Just as he finished speaking, a vortex of light appeared under the feet of several young disciples of the sacred mountain. The light soared into the heavens, and as the void rumbled, gusts of wind howled, and they instantly disappeared. So your plan is to sleep here? The terrifying Yuan Qi immediately scattered a few falling leaves. Looking up a few dozen feet, between the tree trunks, there was an ordinary-looking man lying down. He was leisurely resting with his eyes closed, adjusting his breathing. Ice-blue water attribute yuan qi constantly surged around him, and the yuan qi light that was like bubbles embellished the leaves around him with a sparkling and translucent luster. The person who had just spoken was Yunjing, who was disguised as Mo Qing of the Sacred Mountain. The two of them had entered the 100-herb mystery realm through the door of sacred light, and 2 hours had already passed. Su-yi had been resting on the tree trunk without any movement. After hearing Yunjing's complaints, Su-yi slowly raised his eyes, and said softly with a burning gaze, "Do you think Wang Chuanda and the others are idiots? They are quite bad people, but they shouldn't be idiots." Yunjing seemed to be deep in thought and slowly nodded. "That's why I said we just came in. Look at these trees, they are all mottled. What does that mean?" Sui hinted at Yunjing again. When Yunjing had climbed up, she had also noticed these bone-deep tree marks. They should have been caused by yuan qi fluctuations from a battle. "This is the Li clan's territory?" Yunjing's eyes flashed as she said in surprise. Su Yi's handsome eyes immediately flashed with a tinge of sadness. From the current situation, the area that Ouyang Jinwei had allocated was where the Li clan was located. What was originally a place filled with heaven and earth spiritual energy had become a place filled with bleak winds and torrential rains overnight. There are many soul-testing yuan crystals. Previously, Wang Chuanda brought quite a number of people with him. Why didn't Wang Chuanda take them away back then, and instead left them for the personal disciple ceremony? Sui asked again. Seeing that Yunjing still did not understand, Sui said helplessly, "This can only mean one thing. The soul-testing yuan crystals are not easy to find. They are either guarded by a barbaric demon beast, or they are covered by a huge energy source, such as the Crimson Water Heaven Crystal. Hence, the only soul-testing yuan crystals that can be found are the ones that are exposed outside the mountain, and some powder." Yunjing frowned slightly and said to Sui, "Then, when someone finds the powder, the people from the sacred mountain will follow the clues and find the Crimson Water Heaven Crystal? The more soul-testing yuan crystals one found, the more talented one was in soul perception. Naturally, one would contribute more to the sacred mountain, and it was only natural that one would become a personal disciple." Sui gave a hearty laugh and said, "According to the sacred mountain's nature of never doing anything for free, that should be the plan. What a sacred mountain! This idea is nothing special. His ingenuity is comparable to my stinky father's." Yunjing thought to herself as her beautiful eyes turned cold. The 100-herb mountain's terrain is complicated. Furthermore, there are barbaric demon beasts and sacrificial altars within. Why don't we let them search for all of them? It's safer for me to wipe them all out," Sui said with a sharp gaze. Yunjing looked at Sui as a look of admiration flashed across her beautiful face. Yes, little Sui, you are quite quick-witted." Chapter 1529. After a few seconds, Sui smiled and squinted his eyes. He looked up at Yunjing and said, "It's just that you are too stupid." He thought to himself. He did not know how Yunjing cultivated such a terrifying cultivation level. Although he could not detect Yunjing's true strength, she did not mention it herself. But Sui knew one thing. This woman was much more terrifying than the two peerless experts, Su and Lu. With her around, he would have a trump card. Upon hearing this, Yunjing's eyes turned slightly angry, but she immediately said happily, "I'm not stupid. Didn't you refine the heaven crystal remnants? Try sensing it. You might be able to sense the location of the Crimson Aqua Heaven Crystal." Sui shook his head slightly and explained that he had closed his eyes to rest for 2 hours. He had been circulating the Cloud Shadow Frost Steps Martial Techniques mental cultivation method. With the quality of Su Yi's soul, He could safely say that there was no longer any strange feeling from refining the water elemental Yuan Qi yesterday. That's strange. Yun Jing held her cheeks as her eyelashes fluttered. She sat on a tree trunk and her legs were constantly kicking. She was as light as a forest elf that had descended into the mortal world. That proves that the crimson aqua heaven crystal is definitely being concealed by some kind of energy. Upon thinking of this, Su Yi's eyes flashed as he said to Yun Jing, "Let's go. There won't be any news of the soul measuring yuan crystal anytime soon. Let's go down and take a look at the 100 Herb Mountains terrain. Let's see if the Li tribal clan left anything behind." Alright. Let's kill a few sacred mountain dogs while we're at it? Yun Jing raised her eyebrows at Su Yi and said with a chuckle, "There's no other way. I don't provoke others, but they have to provoke me. If they provoke me, I'll return the favor tenfold." Su Yi's face sank. With a flash of his body, he jumped off the tree trunk. Yun Jing also jumped off the tree trunk and followed behind him. As she walked, she stopped talking. Her light footsteps became heavier as her eyes were filled with disappointment. Su Yi found it odd that the usually eccentric Yun Jing would become so melancholic in the 100 Herb barrier. He immediately asked for the reason. "If you hate the sacred mountain so much, why are you engaged to a woman of the sacred mountain?" Yun Jing pursed her lips tightly. She gently flicked Su Yi's sleeve and turned her head to show her displeasure. Su Yi turned his head and laughed. It turned out that the little girl was angry because of this. He said to Yun Jing, "She and I only had a bet on the engagement. Afterwards, I broke the engagement in front of everyone and slapped her face heavily. Previously, I even injured her little brother. Do you still think it's possible? I'm afraid she hates me to the core and wants to take my life at all times." Hearing this, Yun Jing's heart suddenly bloomed with joy. A trace of fluctuation appeared in her moon-like eyes. She was moved and scolded tenderly, "You are really bad. If I were her, you wouldn't be alive anymore. Then tell me honestly, are there any other engagements?" After thinking for a while, Su Yi decided to tell the truth. "I'm also engaged to a saintess, but she also wants to kill me." After saying this, Su Yi helplessly shook his head. Yun Jing felt a burst of bitterness in her heart. She immediately bowed and pouted. "A man like you is liked by girls, but you also let them down. Everyone wants to kill you. Men are all the same." Su Yi suddenly felt embarrassed. He really couldn't reason with a woman like Yun Jing. After thinking about it carefully, he decided that it was better not to provoke her. In order to relieve Yun Jing's emotions, Su Yi walked in the shadows while asking Yun Jing, "Before your Black Fog Underground Institute came to the central province, did you investigate this place?" Yun Jing gently pushed away the branches above her head and looked at Su Yi. She lightly opened her mouth and said, "Yes, the sacred mountains, big and small altars and mountain guarding arrays are scattered here. Inside, there are many barbaric demon beasts that live in the depths of the 100 Herbs Mountain. Therefore, although the 100 Herbs Academy is so big, it's actually not even 1/10 of the 100 Herbs Mountain. It's very dangerous." Otherwise, Su and Lu wouldn't have personally set up a barrier for this disciple ceremony. Only Origin Ancestor Realm people can set up a barrier of such a scale. Yun Jing's eyes seemed to be deep in thought as she continued. "What level are the barbaric demon beasts in here?" Su Yi asked softly. "With such a treasure ground, there are at least Demon Emperor Realm and above. There might even be Demon Ancestor Realm and above." Yun Jing raised her hand and touched her chin. Su Yi smiled in his heart. It seemed that he wasn't very lonely on this trip to the 100 Herbs Academy. The barbaric demon beasts were his natural helpers. After a while, Su Yi and Yun Jing chatted and laughed along the way as they arrived in front of a barren ruin of high walls. The scene before them caused Su Yi and Yun Jing's brows to involuntarily knit together tightly. The cold air around them surged out in all directions like a tide. Looking at the spectacular ruin, it was full of broken walls and scars. Houses and tiles lay quietly in the dust of the world and time. The huge beam that had collapsed on the ground was at least 100 feet long. One could imagine how prosperous this place had been in the past. Even though the beam was extremely dilapidated, it was still filled with an ancient aura of tens of thousands of years. Everything that had once been protected by it had suffered extreme destruction overnight. This was a sudden and sinister man-made disaster. It was a disaster that caused the people to be plunged into misery and suffering. On the other side, the dilapidated gray stones were covered with corrosive moss and lichen. There were still traces of black blood that had not dissipated after a year. The once prosperous and happy tribe had been annihilated like a spark. Suddenly, Sue-yi secretly felt a surge of hot blood in his chest. Before it was destroyed, it should have been an extremely terrifying hidden force. Who would have thought that it would be destroyed by the sacred mountain in an instant? In an instant, endless fighting spirit and blood chi were born and gone with the wind. The former glory had finally turned into a scene of devastation. In the blink of an eye, countless bloody scenes appeared in front of Sue-yi's eyes. The old, the young, the women, and the children were moaning in pain on the ground. The flames of war were spreading, and the Li tribe was filled with endless wails and cries. Bloody scenes appeared before his eyes. Young children died tragically, old people fell. Their painful eyes made Sue-yi's heart ache. The bloody wind and rain reminded Sue-yi of the spirit ancient village. Grandmother Shangguan died tragically in front of his eyes and entrusted Shi-wei to him. At that moment, the spirit ancient village was a purgatory on earth. It was a murderous mountain of swords and a sea of fire. Thinking back to that day, Sue-yi's eyes were still red. The so-called experts, including the sacred mountain, were just saying that the human heart was not what it used to be. For the legacy of the Tian Yao school, for the treasures on my body, for the secrets of the Li clan, the sacred mountain has committed too many sins. Sue-yi could not help but cry out in grief. Only when you are strong to the extreme can you truly trample the sacred mountain under your feet. For the spirit ancient village, for the heaven demons, for the Li clan, and most importantly for yourself. Chapter 1530. Boom! Sue-yi used all his strength as his eyes gradually turned blood red. His surging aura was like that of a killing god as it spread through the ruins. Yun-jing saw this and knew that Sue-yi must have some incomprehensible bitterness. She sighed slightly and remained silent. Let's go in and help the Li siblings find out if there is anything left behind by the Li tribal clan. Sue-yi's eyes were gloomy. His billowing killing intent was like a terrifying wind as he slowly walked into the ruins with heavy footstep. The moment he entered the ruins, the tranquility after the calamity made Sue-yi's heart wrench. He looked around the ruins and there was nothing left behind. The sacred mountain was like a devil that had devoured everything in the Li tribal clan, killing countless innocent lives. Scenes of blood and people who were like family members falling one after another in front of him, while he was unable to do anything else, made Sue-yi angrier the more he thought about it. Using the beam in his hand as a blade, he sliced through the boulder beside him. Sacred mountain, you and I are irreconcilable. Your crimes are punishable by death. The only thing Sue-yi was thankful for was that he had moved the Su family to Yutian Palace early on. If not, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Boom! A saber beam exploded as its momentum shook the heavens. Just as Yun-jing was about to step forward to console him, two familiar figures walked out from a dilapidated house. They were Sue-yi's fellow disciples on Platform 9, Sun Hao and Zhang Dan. The two of them were jubilant as their footsteps were light. One of them was waving the interspatial bag in his hand with a pleased look on his face. I told you, coming to the Li clan to find something is more useful than those idiots looking for the soul-measuring yuan crystal. Listen to me. When I find that punk Duan Hong, I'll definitely beat his leg off in front of you. Sun Hao's eyes were filled with resentment as a chill flickered. The hearty laughter of one of them reached Su Yi from afar. His smug look was extremely disgusting. That's right. Brother Hao, that punk Duan Hong actually spoke rudely to you. Who does he think he is? I feel like he was the one who beat you. Zhang Dan recalled the situation and said with certainty. That's right, let's leave quickly. That thing inside is too scary. Fear crawled up Zhang Dan's back like maggots, causing him to break out in cold sweat. Hearing the sonic boom produced by Su Yi from afar, they approached the source of the sound. They immediately saw Su Yi and the people around him. Their eyes were filled with disdain. Sun Hao raised the interspatial bag in his hand and curled the corner of his mouth as he said disdainfully, "Isn't this Duan Hong? Why did you bring Nier into the legacy ceremony? Could it be that you're lonely?" Zhang Dan, who was at the side, also revealed disdain in his eyes. The way he looked at Mo Qing was filled with filth. I was wondering who it was. Isn't this the 8 prefectures Mo Qing? Junior apprentice Sister Mo Qing, haven't you always looked down on Duan Hong the most? Why is the sun rising from the west today? Zhang Dan also moved closer and said to Mo Qing, if you're bored, you can find Big Brother. What can't you tell Big Brother? After the two of them finished speaking, they burst into laughter. Their eyes looked up and down at Yunjing's body. Her towering breasts and slender white legs made their eyes shine brightly. Do you know them? Yunjing crossed her arms. Her eyes were filled with anger. She clenched her teeth, and a trace of disgust floated in her eyes. Su Yi, who was in a fit of anger, had a cold glint in his eyes when he saw the two of them. Take out what you found. Otherwise, die. His blood-red eyes carried an unquestionable indifference. The blood-red anger was accompanied by the Origin Supreme technique that swept out like a tide. Damn it, you think you're the 5th Holy Sun just because you got Mo Qing? You're just a joke. Go to hell. Sun Hao and Zhang Dan didn't expect Su Yi to still dare to talk back. Sun Hao still remembered Su Yi's words on the high platform. He met Su Yi in the Li Clan ruins. The two of them, who had always disliked Duan Hong, finally found a chance to take revenge and completely leave Duan Hong in the secret realm. Immediately, Sun Hao looked at Su Yi maliciously. He shouted loudly, and his hands condensed a dazzling golden light. The metallic aura drew a huge arc in the air and swept through the air like a steel whip. The two of them attacked left and right, forming an encirclement that directly blasted towards Su Yi. Go to hell. I'll let you know what talent is. Boom. The golden light was fierce, and it caused a violent spatial ripple to ripple out in the air. As the ripple surged, the north wind caused Su Yi's clothes to flutter and his hair to flutter. Both of them were at the 8th level of the Origin Void stage, and they were experts in other second-rate sections. But in Su Yi's eyes, they were only a speck of dust that couldn't be touched in the sea. Su Yi blocked with his hand and indicated Yun Jing not to interfere, and then a trace of blood gushed out from his eyes as he shouted loudly. And you deserve death. Instantly, Su Yi's water attribute spirit energy spread out. His spirit energy aura instantly dispersed, and his figure vanished in an instant as well, leaving behind a long blue-colored ice crystal that suffused the sky with terrifying wave. Yun Jing, who stood at the side, had a helpless expression instead, and she shook her head as she said in her heart, "Idiot, good luck. You might as well let me make a move." Instantly, the two of them who pounced at empty air were slightly dazed. In the blink of an eye, Su Yi had arrived behind Sun Hao, and the corners of his mouth curled into a trace of a light smile. Fire Shadow Fist. Bang! Bang! When Su Yi used a martial skill that was suppressed to the 6th level of the Origin Void stage, it was absolutely not something an ordinary martial artist could compare to. The fist images that covered the sky were accompanied by surging waves of fire, and as the surging aura raged in the sky, the peerless fist lights instantly shattered the protective true energy of the two of them. The sky shook, and the aura shook the sky. Thump, thump, two long lines of blood streaked across the sky, and in less than a breath of time, Sun Hao and Zhang Dan fell to the ground. Enormous cracks spread out like a spider web at the place they fell, and if it wasn't for Sui holding back, they would already be two icy cold corpses at this moment. Ah! Sun Hao covered his shoulder with his hand, and his entire body was instantly covered in bloody holes, and his ghastly pale face was extremely distorted. His entire body was scarlet red like a person made of blood, and the places where the blood flowed were mixed with a charred black color. His clothes were completely destroyed, and he was in an extremely sorry state. Earlier, Su Yi's instantaneous move completely crushed Sun Hao and Zhang Dan. With his clothes fluttering in the wind, Su Yi, who stood with his hands behind his back, was like a god of slaughter that looked down upon the world, and his surging blood energy rose like flames. "How can you be so strong?" Looking at Su Yi's face that was dark like water, Sun Hao and Zhang Dan revealed shocked expressions, and their eyes were filled with disbelief. The Duan Hong of the past had actually killed them in an instant. Su Yi, who spread out his cold intent, clenched his fists tightly, and his joints continuously emitted cracking sounds of sonic booms, as if he could shatter his fist at any moment. Chapter 1531. Su Yi looked at Sun Hao's repulsive face. His chest was already filled with fury. His fingernails dug deep into his flesh. The people of the Holy Mountain must die. After a few breaths, Su Yi still managed to calm his emotions. His red eyes surged as he said coldly, "Where did you guys just come from?" Sun Hao and Zhang Dan were shocked by Su Yi's terrifying and violent aura. They looked at Su Yi as if they were looking at an incomparably fierce and heaven-defying demonic beast. They said with trembling voices, "We came from the Li clan's ancestral hall. Duan Hong, since we're from the same sect, let me go." Zhang Dan's eyes were filled with fear as he said to Su Yi with a heart-wrenching voice, "That's right, we were blind. We didn't know you were so powerful. We're ants, we're trash. Don't kill us." Sun Hao knocked his head into the soil and kept begging like an extremely pitiful dog. Because of the rules of the ceremony, one could slaughter at will within the barrier. At this moment, Su Yi's red eyes completely covered his entire pupils. The blood-colored aura on the surface of his body was like an erupting volcano. He said with a deep voice, "Enough nonsense. Hand over the interspatial bag." Hearing that, the kneeling Sun Hao and Zhang Dan revealed a difficult expression. This was the treasure they had just found with great difficulty from the Li clan's ancestral hall. Yun Jing couldn't stand it anymore. She quickly circulated the wood attribute energy in her hand. A green light that seemed to come from hell was suffused with a bright radiance. "Okay, I'll hand it over, I'll hand it over." Zhang Dan glanced at Sun Hao. Sun Hao also had a worried expression as he handed over the interspatial bag. Zhang Dan wanted to say something but stopped. His eyes were filled with pain as if his flesh was being cut. Yun Jing circulated her energy. Her fingertips glowed with a faint green light. With a light touch, she directly opened the interspatial bag. Su Yi's heart immediately trembled. Su Yi had the Origin Supreme technique and could ignore the spatial restriction of the interspatial bag. Yun Jing's light could also break the interspatial bag's restriction. There were two conditions for opening the spatial bag. One was to have an extremely high cultivation and have a deep understanding of spatial rules. The other was to have an exceedingly high martial skill that allowed one to break the restriction with brute force. Perhaps Yun Jing had both of these points. While Su Yi was pondering, Yun Jing turned her head and said excitedly to Su Yi, "We're rich. We're rich." Su Yi's eyes suddenly lit up. Yun Jing was the helmsman of the Black Fog Underground Institute, and countless treasures had passed through her hands. Since Yun Jing said so, she must have found some peerless treasure. Without further ado, Su Yi walked forward and released a purple flame from his interspatial bag. Light soared into the sky, purple and demonic flames rose unceasingly. Amidst the dazzling flames, Su Yi saw clearly that it was actually an exquisite and translucent square cauldron. Its entire body was densely covered with tiny ancient runes, and it was extremely mysterious. Taking a closer look, the square cauldron had a strange shape. Its entire body was light purple, and its 4 legs supported its body. The mouth of the cauldron had 2 ears. On the wall of the cauldron that was suffused with mysterious runes, there was also a picture of a 3-legged golden crow holding a sun. The small cauldron's body had a dense and ancient aura, as if it had traveled through ancient times. It was all-encompassing and gave off an endless feeling. "What is this?" Su Yi couldn't help but ask. "Purple flame sun cauldron." Yun Jing's eyes were filled with light, and she couldn't contain her excitement. "What is it used for?" Su Yi looked at Yun Jing with eyes full of doubt. This time, it was Yun Jing's turn to be spirited. Looking at the purple divine flame that was like a light barrier, she raised her head and said, "The purple flame sun cauldron is worthless to ordinary cultivators, but to powerful alchemists, it is an extremely precious treasure." Yun Jing continued to speak eloquently. "The weapons commonly used by cultivators are divided according to their levels. There are ordinary weapons, yuan weapons, xian weapons, spirit weapons, Tao weapons, magic weapons, and sacred weapons." Su Yi knew all of this. When he heard about sacred weapons, Su Yi's inner world trembled subconsciously. It was the innate soul blade soul in his body that was responding to Yun Jing's words. And the cauldron used by alchemists is like a weapon used by ordinary weapons. If you are not an alchemist, then this is a useless item. Then, Yun Jing said mysteriously to Su Yi, "But if you're an alchemist, then the alchemy cauldron is more precious than your life." At this point, Su Yi suddenly remembered that Big Brother Merciless West also had a small cauldron. However, compared to this cauldron in front of him, it was far inferior. "It's just a magic weapon. I thought it was more precious?" Su Yi said stubbornly. "Ba ba ba. You have eyes but can't see. What a waste." Yun Jing stuck out her tongue and looked at Su Yi with disdain. Bang! The purple flame sun cauldron already had a spirit. When it heard Su Yi's words, a huge light soared into the sky. The cauldron's handle heavily smashed onto Su Yi's head. Su Yi immediately felt some pain as he glared fiercely at the purple flame sun cauldron. The purple flame sun cauldron was like a living creature. It intimately leaned against Yun Jing's side and stuck close to Yun Jing's face. It swayed up and down as if it was enjoying it very much. It was as if it had found a confidant that it hadn't seen in a long time. What purple flame sun cauldron? It's clearly a smelly cauldron with a lascivious nature. Su Yi touched his forehead and immediately used his essence to suppress the swelling. Yun Jing gently caressed him and said, "Hey, you're right. He really does have the other half. It's called the Azure Flame Een Cauldron. This is the precious part that I was talking about." Su Yi immediately became spirited as he listened attentively to Yun Jing's words. The Azure Flame Een Cauldron is mainly used for refining tools. It's the best cauldron for a refiner. Yin and Yang are in harmony with each other. As the saying goes, there's Yang in Yin and Yin in Yang. When Yin reaches the extreme, it becomes Yang. This is the heavenly Tao. The convergence of Yin and Yang is the source of the energy of heaven and earth. With the protection of the heavens, there's nothing bad. Legend has it that if someone can combine 2 cauldrons, they can create the heaven-controlling divine cauldron that soul controllers yearn for even in their dreams. It's the heavenly star shocking soul of soul controllers. Heaven-controlling divine cauldron? Su Yi's blood boiled after hearing Yun Jing's words. The treasure that soul controllers yearned for even in their dreams, wasn't that what he needed? That's the legendary soul-controlling sacred artifact. No one has ever seen it before. The soul-controlling technique is the hardest to master. With the heaven-controlling divine cauldron in your hands, you can easily control the ancient remnant souls for your use. There are also many endless uses. But at the same time, the combined cauldron's requirement for soul power has reached an extremely abnormal level. Just think about it. Su Yi's heart trembled. He was unconvinced and said, "That's not necessarily true. One must always have dreams. What if one day I succeed?" Heaven-controlling divine cauldron? Su Yi scratched the back of his head. Heaven-controlling palace, heaven-controlling art, heaven-controlling divine cauldron? Could it be that they were related? All right. I wish you success. Why don't you see how you can subdue this purple flame yang cauldron first? Yun Jing smiled and then handed the purple flame yang cauldron to Su Yi. After a long time, the purple flame yang cauldron kept drawing arcs in the air, twisting and turning. It just didn't want Su Yi to touch it. Chapter 1532. Su Yi saw an opportunity and hugged the purple flame sun cauldron. He thought to himself, you still want to run? I've already subdued the demon god battlesuit. Can't I handle a small cauldron like you? At this moment, a purple stream of light jumped out from Su Yi's arms. The purple flame sun cauldron dissipated and was in Yun Jing's hand when it reappeared. Yun Jing immediately covered her mouth and laughed. She said jokingly, "So there's something you can't do in this world?" Su Yi immediately shook his head. His expression was calm as he said embarrassedly, like repel. Then, Yun Jing frowned slightly and didn't expose him. She smiled and put the purple flame sun cauldron into her interspatial bag. Su Yi noticed that Yun Jing's interspatial bag was very different from normal ones. It was emerald green and emitted an extremely vast and deep light. It was as bright and clear as a jade heavenly pearl. It was obviously not made of ordinary materials. At the bottom right corner of the interspatial bag, a golden edge jumped into his eyes. Upon closer inspection, a small Jing word was carefully engraved with golden threads. "Then I'll keep it for you first. Let's see when you can subdue it." Yun Jing chuckled. "Don't you want it?" Su Yi asked curiously. "What I want is more precious than this. As I said, if you're not an alchemist, it's useless to have this," Yun Jing said casually. Then, Su Yi turned his head to look at Sun Hao and Zhang Dan, who were still wailing on the ground. He kicked them, and with a crack, Sun Hao let out a sound like a pig being slaughtered. Yun Jing immediately covered her ears. "Other than this purple flame sun cauldron, what else did you find in the Li family's ancestral temple?" Su Yi looked at the two of them calmly. However, the two of them couldn't stop trembling. "We haven't entered the depths yet. We only found this cauldron in a small compartment. And ran out." Zhang Dan followed Sun Hao's words. His pupils shrank and his face was filled with fear. He narrowed his eyes and said, "We saw it, and those eyes. It's too terrifying." "What eyes?" Su Yi raised his eyebrows and asked again, but the two refused to speak. They huddled together as if their eyes were even more terrifying than the Su Yi in front of them. Looking at the miserable state of the two, Yun Jing and Su Yi looked at each other in dismay, somewhat confused. Both of them were cultivators who had cultivated for a long time, so how could they be so easily frightened by something? Two pieces of trash. Yun Jing narrowed her eyes. If it wasn't for Su Yi stopping them, the two of them would have died long ago. Bang! Su Yi circulated the primordial origin supreme art. Instantly, a ferocious aura that transcended the heavens and earth slammed into the two of them like a tidal wave. Their eyes flashed as if they had just woken up from a dream. Their bodies swayed even more violently like pendulums. The fiery red yuan qi light revolved around Su Yi like a divine ring, emitting extremely terrifying spatial fluctuations. Submit to me. Su Yi's cold light was like lightning, shooting towards the two. Ah! Sun Hao and Zhang Dan's faces twitched at the same time. As people of the sacred mountain, they were like proud sons of heaven outside. It was just that when they came to the Sacred Mountain Academy, there were so many talents that they appeared mediocre. It was one thing for the vulgar and bullied person to suddenly become strong, but Gu Nianji didn't kill them in order to make them submit to him? He treats us as slaves? Or as beasts? Sun Hao's face looked as if he had eaten excrement. He couldn't accept this kind of crushing of dignity, and his eyes became cold. Zhang Dan, who was standing at the side, also had a face full of green and red. Seeing Sun Hao's hesitant appearance, he thought in his heart that since he had already kowtowed and lost his face, he couldn't lose his life too. He immediately clenched his teeth and fiercely glared at Sun Hao, as if complaining that Sun Hao didn't know life from death and provoked Duan Hong. He immediately kowtowed heavily. Master, this lowly one is willing to follow, sir. You. Sun Hao was immediately speechless. Seeing Zhang Dan's solicitous appearance, Sun Hao also became a deflated ball and lost his confidence. Soon after, he also bowed to Su Yi. Good. Seeing the two disciples of the sacred mountain live worse than barbaric demon beasts, Su Yi felt even better than directly killing them. Thinking that there were still over 100,000 people of the sacred mountain here, Su Yi gradually frowned, and the anger in his heart like a volcanic eruption rose again. Bastards of the sacred mountain! One day, I will make you kowtow in front of all the sins you have committed. Yun Jing looked at Su Yi, who instantly subdued the two disciples. Her charming eyes were like silk, her hands were crossed, and her eyes curved into a crescent moon. She felt very amused. No need to kowtow to me, apologize to Miss Emoching, slap yourself 10 times, and sincerely tell her where you were wrong. Hearing this, Sun Hao and Zhang Dan didn't dare to disobey. They crawled in front of Yun Jing and didn't even dare to raise their heads. Slap slap. 10 crisp sounds immediately hit their cheek. Immediately, a wave of burning pain caused them to grimace in pain, and their mouths were still shouting non-stop. I was wrong, Miss Emoching, I didn't keep my mouth shut. I didn't know that Duan Hong, oh no, Master was so powerful. I was wrong too, Miss Emoching, I beg you, ask Master to let us go. We won't take revenge. You're the most beautiful, I'm trash, I'm dog fart, just treat me like a fart and let me go. Yun Jing looked at the two of them as if they were acting. She looked at Su Yi and smiled. Her eyes were full of bright light. This kid, when he messed with people, his expression didn't change at all. He had a lot of ideas. Hearing the two of them repenting, Su Yi looked at the scene of devastation in front of him, and coldness spread out. Turning his head, Su Yi said to the two slaves, who were close to the ground, Do you have a share of the masterpieces here? When the two of them heard this, their faces turned even redder. It was as if their throats were suddenly choked by someone, and they didn't even dare to breathe loudly as they stammered. Master, this was all ordered by Wang Chuanda, that bastard. We're just ordinary pawns, we don't dare to disobey. Knowing that they couldn't escape death, the two of them slapped even harder and faster. In a short while, their entire faces swelled up like a braised pig's head. Fresh blood slowly flowed out from the corners of their mouths, and a few teeth flew out along with the blood. However, their hands still didn't dare to stop, crazily greeting their cheek. Su Yi slowly squatted down. His sword-like eyebrows slightly slanted, and he said solemnly, Which hand killed him? Sun Hao was slightly startled and didn't dare to meet Su Yi's eyes in the slightest. He raised his right hand slightly and said softly, This one? Just as his voice fell, only to hear a miserable scream resounding through the sky from above the ruins. Sun Hao's right hand was directly twisted in another arc by Su Yi. It was extremely terrifying. What about you? If you don't speak, both of your hands will be broken. Su Yi's tyrannical attribute Yuan Qi suddenly spread out. His gaze flickered in the direction of Zhang Dan, and Zhang Dan's body swayed violently, continuously shrinking back. Chapter 1533. Zhang Dan shuddered as his gaze trembled. In his eyes, Su Yi's figure grew larger and larger, as if a son of God had descended. Su Yi's boundless wind was like a soul-searching spell from hell, crushing Zhang Dan's last bit of mental state. Zhang Dan cried as he hugged his head. Tears and snot flowed down his face, as if he had just experienced a calamity. This stinking brat, whether it is subduing techniques or soul suppression, his cultivation is much higher than his. His wisdom and schemes are beyond an ordinary person. No wonder he can cause such a huge commotion. Yun Jing's eyes were filled with admiration. If we bring him back, Father will definitely like it. Yun Jing's nose twitched as her eyes glistened. Su Yi's face was ashen as he stared at Zhang Dan without a word. Zhang Dan slowly raised his left hand and closed his eyes, not daring to watch what was about to happen. As expected, there was another crisp sound. Zhang Dan, whose entire body was trembling, opened his eyes shakily. Seeing that his left hand was the same as Sun Hao's, it had been turned over by terror. He sucked in a breath of cold air, his heart filled with boundless fear. Coupled with the collapse of his mental state, he could no longer hold it in. A fishy taste emerged from his chest as fresh blood flowed down from the wound. Sun Hao and Zhang Dan's eyes were filled with regret. They did not expect the submissive Duan Hong to have such means. They could not help but complain in their hearts. They had provoked a devil. I accidentally overdid it. Su Yi slapped his forehead and immediately moved closer to the two of them. His face was filled with an apologetic expression. The two were like birds startled by the twang of a bow. Their lips trembled as they said in a trembling voice, "We dare not, we dare not. Master, you're right. We're sorry to the Li tribal clan. We deserve to die." "Your attitude is not bad." Su Yi's eyes lit up as he slowly nodded his head. As soon as he finished speaking, Su Yi activated the primordial chaos supreme technique. The unparalleled qi of vitality in the great void divine sea flowed along the wide meridians and gathered at one point. It was like a surging river. The surging qi of vitality was channeled to his palms and directly into the bodies of the two. Boom! Qi la la! Under the sunlight, the entire exterior of the Li family's ancestral shrine became dazzling. The surrounding halos surged, and the strong wind that blew up directly set off waves of strong waves. Sun Hao and Zhang Dan's bodies were infused with an unparalleled amount of true energy, and a layer of film-like luster surrounded them. Their hands' seals were constantly changing, their chests were rising and falling, and their breathing was becoming more and more stable. The wounds caused by the fire shadow fist were immediately covered by strands of energy and slowly began to scab. The mysterious and unfathomable Yuan Qi turned into waves of energy and entered the bodies of the two people. Who? The results were immediate. Sun Hao and Zhang Dan's faces were no longer distorted. Because of the recovery speed visible to the naked eye, their faces gradually regained their blood-red color. Give a date for a slap? Good idea. Yun Jing's eyes flashed with a trace of sharpness, and her lips also outlined a trace of a brilliant smile. Watching Su Yi mess with people was much more fun than her messing with people. After their breaths had stabilized, Su Yi's aura was as deep as the abyss. He lifted their arms again. Yun Jing murmured doubtfully, "What do you want now?" I didn't reset them properly." It turned out that Su Yi was helping them reset their arms, bending them here and there, and then bending them back a little. After working for a long time, Su Yi still felt that it was not in place. He scratched his head and said, "I know how to kill people, but I know nothing about saving people. After going back and forth for more than 10 times, everyone's arms were finally restored. Su-yi slowly exhaled, as if he had used a lot of strength. The yuan qi that Sun Hao and Zhang Dan had just recovered began to dissipate again. Their pale faces were once again distorted by the pain. Their veins were bulging, but they did not dare to breathe loudly. They held their breath and did not dare to make a sound. During the process of restoring their arms, they almost fainted several times. Their heavy breaths sounded like worn-out bellows. Cold sweat poured down their faces as they rinsed their mouths. The numb pain made their eyes lose focus completely. They mumbled, "Thank you, Master." Su-yi nodded his head in satisfaction. He smiled and took out 2 pills from his bosom and said, "Don't mention it, we are from the same sect. Since your injuries are quite heavy, take these 2 pills and quickly consume them." The 2 slowly took the pills and held them in their hands. Their faces were filled with worry, and they hesitated for a long time. They knew that Su-yi definitely did not have good intentions, and that it was most likely poison. After looking at them for a long time, Su-yi looked handsome and said gently, "Eat, you still need to help me." The current Su-yi in their eyes was even scarier than a saint. He was simply a nightmare. Just one sentence was enough to make the 2 of them tremble. "Gudong," the 2 of them decisively swallowed the pills. "Good. Get up. I'll give you 1 day. Bring all the people with high cultivation and authority here, no matter what method you use. If Mu-yi still can't do it, I have 1,000 ways to kill you." Hearing this, the 2 of them were in a dilemma. They were only normal disciples of the 9 lords, ants among ants. How could they do anything? "Yes, Master." The 2 of them had a gloomy expression. Thinking up to here, even after 10,000 years, they still had to live. "I'll give you 2 hours. Face this pile of rubble, slap yourselves for an hour, and kowtow for an hour," Su-yi said coldly. "Ah!" The 2 of them immediately felt their vision go black. But there was no other way. They deserved to provoke such a fiend. The 2 of them supported each other. One of them couldn't move his right hand, and the other couldn't move his left hand. They walked step by step to kneel in front of the beam and began their slapping again. Pa pa pa. The sound echoed through the clouds. Every slap was a smear of blood. The scene was very exciting. On the side, Yun-jing was already laughing so hard that her stomach hurt. She looked at the 2 of them mockingly and thought, "If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place?" Seeing the 2 of them obediently do as they were told, Su-yi's eyes emitted a cold light. If it weren't for the fact that they were still useful, they would have died long ago. This was just a small punishment. Everyone in Saint Mountain will pay a high price for this. "Yun-jing, let's go to the Li clan's ancestral hall and see if there are any monsters." Su-yi transmitted his voice to Yun-jing. When they passed by Sun and Zhang, Su-yi's eyes were gloomy. The corners of his mouth rose slightly as he said to the 2 of them, "Don't try to trick me. Little spiritual medicine will turn into poison." Hearing this, the 2 of them slapped even harder. Facing the beam, they repented like they were chanting scriptures. Su-yi's supreme prestige had been deeply engraved in their hearts. How could they have the will to resist? Su-yi sneered and stepped into the Li clan's ancestral hall with Yun-jing. As soon as they entered, the ancestral hall was filled with the smell of decay. The wind whistled through the hall, like the howling of ghosts. Su-yi thought, this is just an ordinary ruin. If it weren't for Sun and Wu's confession, it would have been difficult to notice the difference. Chapter 1534. Yun-jing walked back and forth, looking up and down the entire ancestral hall. Her eyes narrowed as she thought carefully. Her eyes were constantly searching. Where was the mechanism of such an ordinary secret chamber? At the same time, she asked casually, "Little Su-yi, what did you feed them just now?" Su-yi kept knocking on the bricks in the ancestral hall. His eyes were filled with a hint of seriousness. It was obvious that this ancestral hall had been tampered with, but he didn't know where the mechanism was. The Origin Supreme technique was activated again. At the same time, he condensed a hand seal and silently recited the mantra of controlling the celestial palace. The Heaven Origin demon's soul blazed like the sun. His eyes were tightly shut, and the light around him surged. A peerless Yuan Qi rushed from heaven and earth, and immediately covered the small Li clan ancestral hall. Through his subtle senses, he discovered that there was a trace of Yuan Qi seeping out from the cracks of the brick. After a while, Su-yi opened his eyes. A bright light suddenly burst out from his eyes. He pushed and pulled back his hands. The Yuan Qi light whistled out like a waterfall and swept directly at one of the bricks. Boom! The brick wall shattered and dust flew everywhere. The wall in front of him collapsed, and immediately, smoke and dust spread out. A dark staircase appeared, leading to deep darkness. There's such a place! Yunjing flashed a look of surprise. Su-yi's eyes darkened. He raised his eyes and said, I fed them the bone-devouring soul elixir. Let's go in and take a look. Looking at the different world in front of him, Su-yi's heart skipped a beat. There was actually such a place hidden in the Li clan ancestral hall. Sure enough, there were still many things left in the Li clan ancestral hall. Perhaps the crimson water sky crystal was inside. Thinking of this, Su-yi's heart suddenly jumped to his throat. He sniffed, and his body went wild. His qi energy was wild and unrestrained, and it swept into the darkness. Yunjing nodded at the same time. Without saying anything, the two of them turned into two balls of Yuan Qi light, one green and one white, and rushed in. With a leap, only a series of afterimages were left in the entire Li clan ancestral hall. The empty Li clan ancestral hall was still desolate with cold wind blowing. After walking in the darkness for some time, Su-yi and Yunjing came to a cliff. Not a single blade of grass grew on the cliff. Sand and gravel covered the ground. The cold wind kept blowing against their eyes, making it hard for them to open their eyes. At the corner of the cliff, there were many bronze and iron objects. Most of them were Dao artifacts and magic artifacts. After being placed there for a long time, they were covered in dust. There's quite a lot of good stuff, Su-yi said softly. Looking around, the cliff was completely different from the outside world. It was pitch black and quiet. 2 crescent moons hung high above his head. Clouds drifted, but strangely, there was not a single star. Time had no meaning here. How strange. Why are there 2 moons here? Yunjing asked curiously. Su-yi was hesitant. He could only see the towering cliff, and the opposite cliff was separated by a bottomless gully. There was a small ice-blue building standing on the opposite cliff. Su-yi and Yunjing raised their eyebrows slightly, feeling that something was wrong. This doesn't look like a real place. The small buildings there are also strange. Yunjing solemnly transmitted her voice to Su-yi. She looked at the illusory scene with her eyes. She was afraid that someone would hear her, so she didn't use her voice to speak. Let's go and take a look first. Get ready. Su-yi was not confident in his heart. A cold smile spread from the corner of his mouth. He circulated his primordial qi slightly and leaped into the air, rushing straight to the other side of the cliff. Swoosh, swoosh. The sound of something breaking through the air could be heard. As soon as Su-yi and Yunjing left the cliff, the astral wind became even stronger. It was like a wave that hit the two of them directly. Yunjing's face was solemn. She gritted her teeth, and her beautiful figure turned into a green flowing light, floating like a green duckweed. She drew an incredible arc in the air, fluttering with the wind, taking advantage of the situation. Her sleeves fluttered, outlining a graceful and agile arc. A long white leg was faintly discernible. Good movement skill. Su-yi could not help but praise in his eagerness. His heart was also filled with the desire to fight. Fuyao 100 transformation steps. Su-yi's wings flapped. His entire body was like a fireball. Light surged and his figure flashed like lightning. A trace of spatial ripples suddenly appeared in the surrounding space. Sparks splashed and the intense light overflowed into the sky. Su Yi's feet left afterimages in the air. Many phantoms constantly appeared in the air. In an instant, he blocked the torrential wind and arrived in the middle of the sky ravine. Rumble! When they arrived in the middle of the ravine, the entire sky suddenly turned gloomy. The astral wind was like a huge suction cup that broke the rhythm of Su Yi and Yunjing. The sky shook and the earth shook. Gravel flew everywhere. The two bright moons that were hanging high in the sky suddenly turned blood-red. They were constantly rotating. Golden-red pupils suddenly appeared in the moons. The ominous pupils were awe-inspiring. A bloody aura filled the world. Suddenly, countless air vortexes appeared in the entire world. A dark force swept across. Above the entire space, an invisible aura mysteriously appeared at this time. Countless murderous auras accompanied by the cries of souls rushed into the space of the cliff. The entire space of heaven and earth was swept by a violent murderous aura. Not good. Strange gate, illusionary spirit world. Su Yi's eyes were cold. Since he came in, he felt that the aura of the entire world was different from the outside world. Now, he finally knew that this was an illusion from the beginning. The blood-red sky was accompanied by a black murderous aura, as if it wanted to swallow the entire world. The space rippled violently. Under the murderous aura that seemed to cover the sky, the space let out the sound of debris falling. Su Yi and Yunjing immediately exerted their yuan qi to the extreme. Su Yi tightly held Yunjing's hand. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared, "Hold on to me! Don't let go!" Yunjing's delicate body looked even thinner in the whistling astral wind. Looking at Su Yi, her body was also not heavy, but it was like a steel plate. It was as immovable as a mountain. Su Yi's hand constantly emitted yuan qi light, competing with the wind. Yunjing, who was tightly held, suddenly felt her heart beating wildly. A trace of fluctuation appeared in her moon eyes. "Why is it you again? Why is it you again?" Gradually, Yunjing calmed down and did her best to help Su Yi push away the surrounding wind. Boom boom. Finally, the murderous aura space let out an incomparably deep sound of thunder. In the sky covered by the ominous eye, an incomparably strange figure appeared. It had an elephant's nose, rhinoceros eyes, an ox's tail, and tiger's feet. Its body was covered in scales that were like cold iron. Under the illumination of the black murderous aura, it gave off a faint glow. The black vortex in its mouth was like an energy cannon that constantly attacked Su Yi and Yunjing. A strange smell of blood faintly came from the wind. "Oh no! It's the iron soulfish!" Yunjing roared. Su Yi's heart also palpitated. To be able to make Yunjing so surprised, it was definitely a shocking demonic creature. Boom boom. Just as his voice fell, a huge black hole appeared in the sky. The black hole just happened to be facing the monstrous bloody mouth of the iron soulfish. It was as if a huge vortex had stepped into ancient times. The suction force directly shook the space, and threw Su Yi and Yunjing high into the air, sucking them into the vortex. Chapter 1535. Demon God Battlesuit. Su Yi was extremely shocked. His black hair fluttered in the wind. Su Yi summoned the Demon God Battlesuit in a moment of desperation. The Demon God Battlesuit covered Su Yi tightly. In the black tide, the Demon God Battlesuit was like a star in the night sky, bright and dazzling. "Ha!" Su Yi roared angrily. The Fuyao 100 transformation steps was like a fiery butterfly, welcoming the fierce wind, his frail figure constantly changing in the air. Su Yi rushed in front of Yunjing, protecting her tightly behind him. "Su Yi, you!" Yunjing hid behind Su Yi. Her primordial qi grew under her feet. Her eyes flashed with an undetectable fluctuation. At this time, a streak of blood light shot over from the horizon. The blood-colored long line was accompanied by a sky-piercing baleful aura, like a long scarlet dragon, and directly shattered the Yuan Qi light shield of Su Yi and Yun Jing. Qi La. The demon god battlesuit that Su Yi had just sensed made a cracking sound. Countless small cracks spread out on the dark demon god battlesuit. They were like scales that were peeling off and drifting in the endless wind. Oh no! This is bad. Yun Jing was attacked by the bloody light from all directions. Her primordial qi gradually shook. In the middle of the cliff, there was no place for her to exert her primordial qi. Clang! Above the void, Yun Jing's body was like a swaying willow. The bloody light cut through the dark space. It carried an astonishing evil qi that lingered in the space. Whoosh! It directly bombarded Yun Jing's body. Suddenly, Yun Jing was like a kite with a broken string. Yun Jing! Su Yi, who was constantly resisting the bloody light, glanced at Yun Jing from the corner of his eyes. Immediately, his eyes were bloodshot. He used the Fuyao 100 changing steps to the extreme. Looking at the powerful bloody aura dancing in the air, and hearing Su Yi's faint cries in the wind, Yun Jing's eyes immediately became misty. She was startled, and the consciousness in her mind began to become confused. She muttered to herself, "What are you doing here?" Su Yi with a flash of lightning, Su Yi circulated the primordial origin supreme technique to the extreme. In the space, an extremely rich heaven and earth energy began to gather. In an instant, Su Yi's body moved violently. He was like a swan. He quickly arrived at the place where Yun Jing fell and caught her. His anxious eyes emitted cold lightning. He turned his head to look at the spirit beast in the sky. An aura that made the soul qi. "Human, how dare you come back after stealing my purple flame sun cauldron? I want you all." "I didn't steal. I didn't steal, you brainless idiot." Su Yi's eyes flashed and he formed a seal with his hand. With a cold shout, the entire sky was filled with a series of sonic booms. Heavenly Tiger Force. A white big tiger appeared behind Su Yi. The tiger's eyes were clear and its claws were like hooks. This was a martial technique that Su Yi thought of in a moment of desperation. It was powerful and had the ability to destroy souls. A palm print appeared out of thin air from his hand, and a majestic energy of the world was drawn from the surrounding space. The aura of absolute power had reached a level of absolute power. Break! The beast's roar shook the sky. The white heavenly tiger's bell-like eyes opened wide, and it let out a deep roar towards the sky. With a huge reverberating power, it spread out its wings and flapped them like a hurricane. A huge gust of wind rushed towards the iron soul puppet. Rumble! The space suddenly trembled. Almost at the same time, a terrifying spatial crack spread out from Su Yi's hand. It turned into 100-meter-long yuan qi that dodged the blood-red light and rushed towards the soul fish's mouth. Good attack. But a human is still a human. It's not enough. In the sky, the iron soulfish opened its mouth and let out a sharp cry. The endless black vortex suddenly expanded. An even more terrifying gust of wind broke through the sky like a small meteor and spread towards Su Yi. "You want to suck me? I think you're just being picky." Su Yi shouted towards the sky. He knew what was going on with one look. An unprecedented battle intent and anger surged in his body. Su Yi muttered to himself. He had used 80% of his strength in that attack just now, but the incomparably majestic power did not cause the iron soulfish's vortex to ripple. He was shocked. The iron soulfish was indeed an ancient savage beast. He had used all his strength, but it was actually able to easily resist it. This kind of strength was definitely not something he could face head-on. Seeing that the black vortex was about to reach him, Su Yi immediately calculated the biggest gains and losses in his mind. Yunjing took a hit and needs to heal quickly. If I take another hit, I'll definitely die here today. Sun Hao and Yunjing managed to escape just now, but I didn't see the soul fish chasing after them. Su Yi's eyes were full of seriousness as he made his final calculations. After a breath, Su Yi made a prompt decision. He roared in his heart, "Who cares if he's dead or alive, I'll give it a try. I'll risk it." Immediately, Su Yi circulated the water yuan qi around his body. Bone-chilling ice crystals instantly condensed in the air, enveloping Su Yi and Yunjing. The ice crystals flowed like a dream, drawing a path of sky crystals in the endless night. Su Yi nimbly recited the cloud shadow frost steps technique. Every step he took created ice crystals, and he quickly ran towards the entrance of the cave. Li Shi. The iron soulfish's murderous face revealed a trace of bewilderment. Then, a huge sound wave that shook the space rolled over like a bell from outer space, deafening even the deaf. "Who the hell are you? You still want to run? You're courting death." Chi. A soul fluctuation as vast as the heavens and the earth surged out from the darkness, like a tornado, sweeping towards Su Yi without restraint. Such a terrifying soul fluctuation made Yunjing's soul, who was lying in Su Yi's arms, shiver. Her face was full of horror. Yunjing's snow-white arms gently held onto Su Yi. Her pretty face was slightly pale. That ray of bloody light just now had dealt a big blow to her body. At this moment, her mind had suffered a huge blow. She frowned and said softly, "Little Su Yi, put me down. You can go. Otherwise, we won't be able to get out." Su Yi's eyes were filled with unswerving determination. Stubbornness burst out, and his body was glistening with cold light, like a god of death. Ice-blue light constantly emerged from the soles of his feet. His body broke through the air with a sharp sound, and there was a faint sound of wind and thunder. He held on to Yunjing with one hand, and the other hand was constantly spurting out yuan qi light. "Go where you came from. You and I still have a bet. No one can lose." Su Yi roared. "You." Su Yi's words made Yunjing's heart tremble. She tightly pursed her cherry lips, and her eyes sparkled. Then, Su Yi turned around and looked at the giant statue in the sky. His eyes were filled with blood and he roared. Chapter 1536. He took a step back and his body floated in the sky. Boundless blue and white yuan qi filled the sky, pushing the light in the air towards the horizon. In the blink of an eye, Su Yi found that wherever he went, the boundless dark aura followed him like a shadow. There were also countless blood-red rays of light entrenched in the sky. "Kid, you're a little interesting. Do you think I'm still dozing off like before? You stole my cauldron. Die." Pring-ping, just as Su Yi was about to reach the entrance of the cave, the air around Su Yi was filled with the smell of decay and blood. Su Yi's face was immediately horrified to the extreme. A purple gold light appeared in his hand. Seeing the heavenly star iron soulfish in Su Yi's hand, it seemed to have gone crazy. An obscure energy that was 100 times stronger than before whizzed towards Su Yi. "Good iron! I want to eat it. Ah! It's even better than the purple flame sun cauldron. I want it." Dong! An incomparably huge blood-red claw appeared in the air. The 5 claws formed a seal, and in the blink of an eye, it clasped onto Su Yi's back. Before he could use the heavenly star soul, Su Yi was hit. Poochie! A vigorous blood mist spurted out from Su Yi's mouth. The incomparably fierce claw brought about a whirlwind that spun up. It directly overturned the layer of soil on the cliff. Countless cracked sand and soil swept into the sky. An impressive dark pressure spread towards the abyss whirlpool. Su Yi! Su Yi! The originally clever Yunjing instantly lost her mind. Her hands were constantly channeling her remaining yuan qi into Su Yi. Her body was trembling and her eyes were misty. In the time it took for a spark to fly off a flint, the claw seal disappeared. When the black whirlpool arrived, the whirlpool condensed and spun. The crazy yuan qi light threads wrapped around the vortex. Suddenly, a surge of yuan qi crazily condensed, and the shadow of a ferocious beast pounced out. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed Su Yi and Yun Jing. Su Yi and Yun Jing's vision suddenly turned black. Their auras suddenly dissipated in an instant. Their entire bodies were swallowed into the giant mouth along with the baleful aura vortex. Under the erosion of the boundless gravity, Su Yi used all the strength in his body to stir up the yuan qi of the primordial origin supreme technique and held Yun Jing tightly. Su Yi and Yun Jing felt as if they were sitting on a slide. The moist and rotten smell from the giant mouth filled their nostrils. Yun Jing, who was already heavily injured, gradually lost consciousness. As it continued to slide down, the thick and disgusting smell became thicker and thicker, as if it had been deposited in a garbage dump for many years. An aura strong enough to corrode one's soul and mind pervaded Su Yi's body. In the end, Su Yi was unable to resist the pressure, and his body began to rapidly sink into the slippery tunnel. At this time, the heavenly origin demon's soul in his body suddenly emitted a faint light. It trembled slightly, and the world began to spin. Su Yi's heart immediately sank. This aura can actually corrode one's soul. In the darkness, Su Yi could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. Art of controlling the heavens. Su Yi immediately put away the heavenly origin demon soul. His left hand formed a seal, and his right hand tightly held onto Yun Jing's waist. Mysterious light runes surged in the void, ensuring that they would not be corroded by the surrounding smell. Su Yi's mind gradually calmed down. Yun Jing is unconscious. I must stay awake. Su Yi muttered to himself. In an instant, the incomparably oily mucus on his body solidified. From head to toe, it was like seawater that kept rising upwards. It was like armor that covered Su Yi and Yun Jing. His mind trembled once again. For the first time, Su Yi discovered that the heavenly origin demon soul's energy was beginning to dim. Su Yi was greatly alarmed. Not good. Immediately, Su Yi and Yun Jing's eyes gradually closed. In the end, they still sank into an endless abyss. Outside the Li clan's ancestral hall, the sun was shining brightly at noon. Sun Hao and Zhang Dan had already finished their 2 hours of repentance. At this time, their hands were so heavy that it was as if they were broken. On top of Zhang Dan's head, large beads of sweat kept sliding down. Using the beam, he stood up shakily. His face was swollen, and it was clearly a different color from before. When he lightly touched it, he grimaced in pain and said fiercely, "Damn it, how dare he mess with us like this? Let him die in there." Sun Hao also stood up. Thinking about Su Yi's fiendish appearance from before, his heart trembled inexplicably. His eyes flickered as he said, "From now on, don't provoke him anymore. We can't afford to. This time, we've messed with a tough nut. We can't deal with it, but can't we deal with the things inside?" Zhang Dan's mouth curved into a sinister smile. He had seen the power of the monster inside just now. Only they knew how many things the Li family was hiding. Maybe Duan Hong was just going to die. Bang! Sun Hao slightly pulled his arm, and his whole body was in incomparable pain. He finally put down his raised hands and roared at Zhang Dan, "Idiot! If he dies, who will give us the antidote?" Recalling the medicinal pill he swallowed and the words Su Yi said before he left, Zhang Dan's face suddenly collapsed like a frosted eggplant. He said with trembling lips, Then what should we do? Do we go in to save Duan Hong?" "I'm not going in. I'm not going in." In comparison, Zhang Dan would rather die than go through those eyes again. "Good luck. Do as Duan Hong said. If he doesn't come out, we might still be able to find the antidote. But if we go in again, with our cultivation, we definitely won't be able to come out alive." Zhang Dan nodded his head in agreement. His incomparably swollen eyes closed slightly, and his eyes had long narrowed into a slit. He muttered, "Bless Duan Hong to come out. Buddha universe, bless, bless." After that, the two discussed for a while and decided to trick everyone here first. Even if Duan Hong couldn't come out, he would only bear the crime of being cheated. It's almost noon. We don't have much time left. Zhang Dan felt wronged and said listlessly, "Let's go. Perhaps those people from the 1 mansion and 2 mansion have already found quite a number of soul-testing crystals. Also, we have to trick those people who found barbaric demon beasts over." Sun Hao seemed to have thought of a good idea. As he walked, Sun Hao planned in his heart. With his appearance, anyone would know that he was being bullied. Since Duan Hong wanted him to trick everyone over. "Alright. I'll let everyone in Ouyang Jinwei's area play with you." Sun Hao slapped his thigh and stomped heavily on the ground. "Ouch!" He stepped on Zhang Dan's foot, and Zhang Dan instantly felt as if he had eaten gold thread. "Ouch, it hurts, it hurts. Slow down." Zhang Dan supported Sun Hao while Sun Hao supported Zhang Dan. The two of them were like a blind man and a cripple, relying on each other as they walked towards the distance. If there were others present, they would definitely hold their bellies and laugh. A dignified disciple of the sacred mountain was not beaten into a pig's head by others, but was beaten into a pig's head by himself. Chapter 1537. Darkness surged in his ears like a tidal wave. Su Yi's head felt heavy and dizzy, as if a 1,000-pound rock was weighing down on him. He couldn't open his eyes no matter what. Su Yi, who was in a daze, still felt that he was sinking endlessly. When he finally reached the bottom, he was buried in a muddy environment. His fingers were tightly clasped together due to the air pressure. The airtight environment made Su Yi feel like he was going to suffocate any time. Under such circumstances, the mysterious light ball in Su Yi's body started to emit a dense white light. At the same time, the Tian Yuan demon soul gave off an extremely dazzling light. It was as if it had a spirit that attacked his heart and soul, urging his heart and soul to wake up quickly. The vigorous chi of vitality in the Great Void Divine Sea also flowed under the operation of the primordial origin supreme technique. His wide meridians contained dense starry light patterns that were divine and clean. In the deep netherworld, Su Yi was like a jade man, sparkling and translucent, pure and flawless. Finally, Su Yi woke up. The surrounding environment was still highly corrosive and engulfing. If he was not careful, he could fall into an endless illusion. The great void chi around him started to condense and spin, forming an energy vortex. There were countless tiny energy light strands that seeped through his skin. Instantly, all of Su Yi's pores opened. After a few breaths, the aperture acupoints all over his body were finally able to fully connect with the pores in the quagmire. He breathed in the not-so-fresh air in the quagmire and gradually regained consciousness. At this moment, Su Yi's entire body, hands and feet were still tightly bound by the sticky liquid. It was as if he was nailed to the ground, unable to free himself. Su Yi was shocked. He thought to himself, "What a strong evil aura. I wonder how Yunqing is doing?" Even though he could not see, Su Yi spread out his Origin Emperor spiritual awareness. He could still feel that Yunqing was lying not far away from him. Her breathing was still stable. He was slightly relieved. This brat, if she wakes up and finds out that she is in such an unbearable place, she will definitely be furious. Su Yi shook his head and laughed bitterly. No matter what, I have to think of a way to leave this place, Su Yi thought to himself. Starry sky. Zing. Under the black mucus, there was a sonorous sound that sounded like a dragon's roar. From the mud, a blade-shaped radiance rushed out. The starry sky revolved around Su Yi's body. Immediately, the entire space was filled with light. It was like a dream under the starry sky. The Milky Way. What are you looking at? Get me out, Su-yi said angrily. The blade radiance flew up and down, looking left and right. After a while, the aura of the blade suddenly changed. The majestic power of the stars, which seemed to have crossed the heaven and earth, slowly slashed around Su-yi's body. It was like a fierce beast that had been sleeping for a long time. The real chi condensed and did not dissipate. The powerful aura surged and slashed on Su-yi's body. In a few moves, Su-yi was separated from the mud. Now that he could move a little, Su-yi shouted in his heart, "Rise!" Immediately, fire-attributed yuan qi filled Su-yi's body. The surrounding air quickly rose in temperature. In the starry darkness, there were waves of spatial ripples. Behind him, the image of an emperor's sparrow gradually condensed. This mud is so powerful. Without using the phoenix fire, it will be hard to completely remove it. Boom! The monstrous waves of fire quickly spread throughout his body. The wet and sticky mud quickly hardened and fell from Su-yi's body as if it was petrified. Chi-la. When all the scales fell, Su-yi quickly used the rising wind 100 transformation steps under his feet. He flew high up in the air. Behind him, his eyes swayed. Holding the starry sky in his hand, the energy pressure that filled the air completely enveloped the sealed space. It was as if he had released a huge storm of yuan qi. His eyes were filled with a fiery red light. The 4 types of yuan qi, earth, water, wind, fire, were used at the same time. Soon after, Su-yi's body became very clean. Looking carefully, in the distance, there was a touch of dark green floating in the mud. Yunqing. Su-yi turned around in the air. Like a ghost, he arrived at the place where Yunqing fell. He looked at Yunqing from the air. He saw that Yunqing's body was already soaked in the mud. Her clothes were messy and rotten. But the magical thing was, there were actually streaks of dark green yuan qi seeping out of her body. It formed a sparkling and translucent film of light on the surface of her body. It completely wrapped around her body like a rope armor. At this time, Su-yi only wanted to save Yunqing. A light flashed in his eyes. His hand seal quietly condensed in his heart. Invisibly, the starry sky made its move again. As it shook up and down, the violent impact directly pulled the mud off Yunqing's body. Rise. Yunqing's outer clothes were connected to the extremely soft mud. The moment she stood up, it all left on the ground. Immediately, a touch of spring appeared in front of Yunqing's chest. An arc appeared in front of his eyes from the dark green underwear. The plump snowball was like a jumping white rabbit, moving nimbly and freely in the starry sky. Her white jade-like collarbone gently glowed the moment it was pulled up. Together with her slender waist, it made people unable to help but be dazzled. Without any explanation, a stream of origin energy brazenly floated out from Su-yi's hand. The dragon-shaped aura immediately grabbed tightly onto Yunqing's slender arm. Soon after, Yunqing was like a ball of warm jade that was soft like snow. Even in such a rotten aura, a wave of lotus fragrance continuously seeped into his heart. Just as she entered his arms, Yunqing's consciousness gradually became clear. Her eyes were blurred. Her willow-like eyebrows looked at Su-yi. She softly said, "Su-yi, put me down. Let's go." Su-yi couldn't help but feel a ripple in his heart. He gently stroked Yunqing's scattered hair. This silly girl still thought that he was fighting with the soul puppet beast. Hugging the soft and boneless body, Su-yi's heart instantly became gentle. He whispered in her ear, "It's okay. We're both very good. I'll bring you out." Borrowing the bright starlight of the heavenly star shock, Su-yi looked at the wrinkled walls of the ravine. He pushed his yuan qi to the maximum and soared into the air. Carrying Yunqing, he flew to a relatively hard place. Looking at Yunqing lying on the ground with her willow-like eyebrows tightly knitted, Su-yi thought to himself, "The mud just now has a strong corrosive effect on the body and the soul. I have to treat her quickly." Besides her underwear, Yunqing's outer clothes were still covered in mud. It was inconvenient for Su-yi to directly use the phoenix fire. After pondering for a moment, he simply took off all her clothes. Yunqing, no matter what happens after you wake up, I can't let anything happen to you. Su-yi had experienced this kind of situation a few times. Every time, he was treated as a pervert or a bastard. However, this time, Su-yi was willing to be treated as a pervert. Su-yi himself felt that it was a little strange. Two people who didn't know each other and hadn't even known each other for a long time could be so concerned about each other in a life and death situation. It was really inconceivable. Chapter 1538. This feeling had only been felt by Ling Qianxue. Su-yi gently turned Yunqing around. Looking at Yunqing's snow-white and snow-white back, his heart started to beat erratically. He couldn't help but curse in his heart as he struggled with himself. Su-yi, Su-yi, what time is it now? Be serious. Come on. Yunqing, hang in there. Putting away his distracting thoughts, Su-yi's eyes lit up again. His imposing aura was simple and solemn. Unparalleled divine light surged out from Su-yi's body like a light shield. Art of driving the heavens. The most important thing now was to stabilize Yunqing's heart and soul. Next was the treatment of her external injuries. Su-yi slightly extended his spiritual awareness to feel Yunqing's aura and murmured softly. After that, Su-yi circulated his yuan qi on his palms. The milky white yuan qi wrapped around his palms and rippled with a mystical light. He gently pressed on the silky smooth back of Yunqing. Suddenly, a huge amount of spiritual qi rushed into Yunqing's mind along her meridians like a spirit snake. It was obvious that Yunqing's mind was in a mess and was unable to extricate herself from it. Under the guidance of the art of driving the heavens, Su-yi slowly adjusted his soul pressure on Yunqing's restless mind. After a while, Yunqing's mind gradually stabilized. However, during the treatment process, Yunqing kept shouting, "Father, you are the sect master of others, but you are also my father." Su-yi muttered to himself. It seemed that Yunqing had a knot in her heart with her father. That was why she was so restless. If there was a chance in the future, he should help her settle it. The rest are the external injuries. Calming himself down, Su-yi nodded slightly. Looking at the spot on his back that was hit by the bloodlight, the blood had stopped flowing. Su-yi was slightly stunned. The soul puppet beast's attack was powerful enough to split the heavens and earth. However, it didn't affect Yunqing much. On the other hand, the spot that was hit by the edge of the bloodlight was still aching and bleeding. Even so, it was built on the foundation of him surpassing the Origin Emperor realm by a large level. This girl's cultivation and fleshly body are above mine. That's why there's a knot in her heart. Su-yi's eyes were filled with concern as he looked deeply at Yunqing, whose eyes were tightly shut. Su-yi's hands continuously poured yuan qi into Yunqing's body. After passing through thousands of meridians and circulating large and small cycles to ensure that Yunqing could recover on her own, Su-yi also gently wiped away the sweat on his forehead. Swallowing a bottle of spirit liquid, Su-yi immediately circulated his yuan qi and focused his mind. Mysterious runes constantly appeared around his body. Waves of energy fluctuated, and the places that were attacked by the bloody claw began to heal at a speed visible to the naked eye. The more they healed, the more shocked he became. The soul puppet beast's attack is at least at the 5th or 6th tier of the demon ancestor realm. If I take a few more hits, I won't be able to take it. Fleshly body strength, cultivation strength, and soul spirit strength. These three were Su-yi's three great techniques that allowed him to look down on those of the same level. Currently, Su-yi could slow down the progress of his cultivation strength. His fleshly body could rely on the god's inheritance, and the heaven-origin demon body to look down on the world and challenge those of a higher level. It was this soul-spirit strength that he couldn't do anything against a similarly strong soul-spirit strength, such as the iron soulfish that was in front of him, or a high-cultivation barbaric demonic beast that specialized in soul-spirit attacks. There are still over 20 days. The Yutian Palace can't be delayed any longer. It's better to get the Crimson Water Heaven Crystal and leave this place as soon as possible. Sui sat on the ground and adjusted his breath. His mind was constantly thinking about his future plans. Because of the energy fluctuations around him, boundless spatial ripples were set off. Right at this moment, Yunqing turned around and looked at Sui. She screamed, "Sui!" The ripples of light rippled, and Yunqing's jade-green undergarments were blown up high. When Sui opened his eyes, the originally faintly discernible curves suddenly became beautiful. At this moment, everything was displayed in front of Sui's eyes. The dazzling spring scenery made Sui, who had just recovered, feel blood rushing to his head. Yunqing seemed to have noticed that her clothes were fluttering, and she immediately turned around. When she turned around, she realized that Sui could see her back. She immediately clenched her teeth and said shyly, "What are you looking at? Close your eyes." Oh, okay." Sui's heart was beating wildly. He had only experienced such a scene with Ji Hanua in the secret realm of ominous spirits. After a moment, a green light flashed in front of his eyes. Yunqing had already changed into a green butterfly-patterned outfit. "Okay, open your eyes." Yunqing curled her lips and said to Sui. Sui slowly opened his eyes and looked into Yunqing's eyes. Yunqing quickly looked away. On her delicate and beautiful face, there was a trace of panic. Then, Yunqing lowered her head and said softly, "Where is this?" Sui was also slightly embarrassed. The two of them were in the stomach of the soul beast. He said softly, "Because your body was dirty just now. I had to heal you." I know. Anyway, you saw everything. You have to take responsibility for me in the future." Sui was speechless. He scratched his head and said, "You tell me how to take responsibility. I, Sui, dare to take responsibility for my actions. Bah. I didn't do anything." Yunqing raised her hand and touched her chin. She walked around Sui and said softly, "Come home with me in the future. I'll bring you to see my father, okay?" "Okay." Sui remembered what Yunqing was thinking. If he could help Yunqing, Sui was naturally willing. He couldn't help but blurt it out. "But, it's not the kind of meeting your father that you're thinking of," Sui hurriedly explained. He was afraid that Yunqing would misunderstand. It wasn't the usual meeting of parents. Seeing that Sui readily agreed, Yunqing's eyes lit up. She raised her eyebrows and was extremely happy. "I don't care. Anyway, you have to come home with me." After saying that, she hugged Sui tightly and stuck to Sui's back. She couldn't contain her joy. Sui, who had just seen Yunqing's charming scene, was being hugged tightly by Yunqing. The blood in his heart was like a volcano that was about to erupt at any time. "Yunqing, if you continue like this, I'll do something bad," Sui panted and said in a deep voice. "Anyway, we're going home. You're mine." "It doesn't matter, little husband." Yunqing made a little face and said softly, "Zing." Sui immediately stood up. He formed a hand seal and circulated the art of driving the heavens. Sui was also troubled by this extremely beautiful yet extremely ferocious woman. He actually had to circulate the art of driving the heavens to resist the throbbing in his heart. However, Sui's rationality told him that it was more important to get out of here. "Stop joking around. Let's get out of here first." Yunqing immediately stopped joking around. She extended the green wood attribute vitality from her palm into the void. The entire space was like a sealed furnace. The murderous aura that had been accumulating for many years was extremely dense. Chapter 1539. It's hard to get out of here. Sure enough, seeing is believing. This soul puppet beast's stomach is filled with thick baleful qi that has been condensed for many years. Yun Jing raised her hand and pointed at the ravines on the wall and continued speaking. Look at this dirty wall. It's extremely hard, hundreds of times harder than black iron. Even if you use your starry sky soul, it will take you hundreds of years to cut it. Waves of baleful aura lingered in the air like black smoke, gloomy and uncertain. Su-yi raised his sword-like eyebrows and remained silent. After listening to Yunqing's words, Su-yi, who was half believing and half doubting, pulled out his saber and slashed down on the dark dirty wall. Boom! The violent attack caused the surrounding air to ripple and black smoke to scatter. However, the mud and the dirty wall did not move at all. The wrinkled dirty wall was as tough as black iron. Not to mention a mark, not even a speck of dust was stirred up. Don't waste your energy. The iron soulfish is called this not only because it likes to eat copper and iron, but also because its body is as hard as an iron wall. Only super experts with superior cultivation can break through it. Yun Jing tapped her chin and looked serious. She murmured, "Legend has it that the iron soulfish was a giant magical beast that lived in the cracks of space in ancient times. Why would it appear here?" Su-yi was slightly surprised, but he did not think too much about it. He said, "Is there no other way?" Yun Qing's mind came back to reality. Her eyes twinkled like stars and were as brilliant as the sunset. She held Su-yi's arm as she spoke with a satisfied expression on her face. "There is. Be my husband. Let's start a family here and cultivate together until we become super experts. Then, we can work together to break through the wall. How about it?" Okay. Let's go to the front and see." Su-yi could not argue with this smart girl. He immediately channeled his yuan qi and led Yun Jing to explore deeper. After a while, with the help of the starlight, the two of them continued forward. The baleful aura around them was still as thick as ever. Just as Su-yi was about to circulate his water yuan qi, the water-blue yuan qi in his wide meridians vibrated violently once again. Su-yi, who was flying in the air, immediately felt something strange in his mind. His body swayed slightly, and he almost lost control of his body in the air. "What happened to you?" Yun Qing, who was following behind him, asked with concern. She gently pressed her hand against Su-yi's back, afraid that he would fall. "There seems to be something up ahead. Let's go." Su-yi had the same feeling when he was in the forest near the sacred mountain. This feeling told Su-yi that it must be because there were clues about the crimson heavenly crystal up ahead. At the thought of this, Su-yi was instantly excited. "Really?" Hearing this, Yun Jing's crescent brows also revealed a look of excitement. A bright light burst out, and the origin energy under her feet rose sharply. Greenwood attribute origin energy surged with a loud rumble. Whoosh! Then, the two of them quickly increased their speed. The sound of origin energy piercing through the air resounded throughout the dark space. Not long after, the two of them saw a place glowing in the darkness in the distance. It was incomparably resplendent, like the North Pole star that fell into the night sky. There's something there." Yun Jing pointed at the glowing place and screamed in shock. Boom! Under the illumination of the starlight, two silhouettes quickly arrived at the location of the light at lightning speed. Su-yi focused and looked carefully. He saw that there was a small piece of crimson heavenly crystal embedded in the dirty wall. Within the folds, it glowed with a bright divine light. A piece of heavenly crystal. Su-yi was slightly stunned. The piece of heavenly crystal that he refined was given to him by the Li clan leader. Why would there be a similar piece of heavenly crystal in the stomach of the soul puppet beast? Could it be that the soul puppet beast had swallowed it? Let me see if I can take it down. Yun Jing's eyes were filled with shock. Her hands were eager to try, but as soon as they touched the heavenly crystal, her hands were directly pushed away by an immense force. Bam! The huge impact fiercely threw Yunjing away like a cannonball. Yunjing was like a bird with a broken wing. She spun a few times in the air before she could stabilize her body. Damn it, this thing doesn't recognize me. Is it because I don't have origin energy of water? Yunjing muttered with a displeased expression. She crossed her hands and stared at the piece of heavenly crystal. Sui chuckled and motioned for Yunjing to step back and give it a try himself. Slightly concentrating, Sui silently chanted the cloud shadow frost treading technique. His hand seals condensed and the origin energy of water in his body immediately surged wildly. Whoosh! A fierce look shot out from his eyes. He shook his arm and an ice-blue waterfall whizzed out like a dragon. It directly attacked the piece of heavenly crystal on the dirty wall. Ding! The two of them collided. Within the dark space, blue light erupted and strong winds howled. An incomparably vast and ancient energy swept out, causing the surroundings to feel like a hurricane had descended. The entire baleful chi space started to tremble slightly due to the overflowing strong winds. It's moving! It's moving! Yunjing, who was standing by the side, shouted excitedly as she pointed at the trembling heavenly crystal. Sui did not say anything else. He waved his long sleeve in the air, and an even more powerful water attribute Yuan Qi poured out. It was like a bright blue tide of light that soared into the sky and directly took the celestial crystal fragment into his arms. The moment the piece of heavenly crystal entered his hand, the familiar sacred aura surged into his meridians. The vast aura connected with his mind. Sui sensed it carefully and realized that it was the other piece of heavenly crystal left behind by the Li tribal clan. The Li clan had a total of 2 pieces of heavenly crystal. Both pieces stored a small portion of the crimson aqua heavenly crystal's energy. One of them was kept by the Li clan, while the other was given to the soul puppet beast for it to refine the energy within. The piece of heavenly crystal that was taken down still contained the teachings left behind by the Li clan's ancestor. The teachings were as follows: the descendants of the Li clan have decreed, our Li clan will reside in the 100-herb divine mountain. We will use soul manipulation as our orthodoxy. We will guard the heavenly crystal and find fated people. Today, a legendary soul puppet beast has descended. The beast's soul power is extremely terrifying. Coincidentally, its power reincarnation happens once every 5,000 years, causing it to nearly lose its life. The soul puppet negotiated with our clan and swore to protect our clan for 5,000 years in exchange for a piece of our clan's heavenly crystal. On account of our weak strength, there are many who covet the heavenly crystal. The righteous Li clan prays for the protection of the heavens. The Li clan will not entrust it to the wrong person. Now we are using the heavenly crystal to save the soul puppet beast. We pray to the heavens and the Li clan's ancestors. May our Li clan continue to exist for 10,000 years without end. The descendants of the Li clan must remember this. If the soul puppet beast makes any strange movements within 5,000 years and attempts to erode our Li clan's authority, we will use the strength of the entire clan to kill it. If there are no strange movements, we will treat it as a divine beast and offer it incense. We will use the soul puppet as the Li clan's totem. We will be grateful. The descendants of the Li clan for 10,000 generations will remember this. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.